Can I say things?
I think we're waiting for the intro to work.
I think it's yeah,
Yeah.
we should be good here in just a second.
Okay.
You're live in three, two, one.
Hey, welcome into the Hang Up. It's June 10th, 2026, and I'm filling in for Matt with my friend Blitz today. It's going to be most exciting. And if you're used to a monologue at the beginning of the Hang Up, no monologue today. No one wants to hear me do a monologue. Matt's way better at that. But we are going to have, hopefully, some really good callers that are going to maybe prove God is real, or maybe that the earth is flat, or that like entropy somehow proves that there's a higher power, or that there must be a prime mover. But Dr. Blitz has all these questions in the bag because his background is in physics. Blitz, for people who haven't seen you yet, you've been around a little bit. Tell us about your background, your channel, and what you do.
Yeah, so if you haven't heard of me, shame on you. No, I'm kidding. My ego's not that big. It used to be, but then I met my wife. No, she's great. I have a PhD in physics. It's what I spent 7 years of my life in it's what I spent my 20s doing. Um, and Since then, I've been actively involved in the research community. Still publishing, still working in that area. I also do mathematics as well, but I do science communication. That's how I pay for all of this. Um, and debates and the like. One of the things that's quite fun to do is to ask creationists what they think entropy is, because they'll never be able to tell you. Anyway, if you want to figure out more about what I do, you can go to my website, which is pretty cool. It's just blitz.phd. There's no .com anywhere, just blitz.phd. And you can see all the stuff that I do. I don't need to talk too much about myself.
I think that might be the first time I've seen a .phd website. Is that a new thing now? Is that what people are doing?
It's fairly expensive as
Oh,
far as domain costs. But I look, my username on all the socials is BlitzPhD.
mhm.
I
You
couldn't
had
not,
to. Yeah,
right? I
yeah.
had to. So that just
I
means
get it.
that I got to shill for donation or something to fund it.
Yeah, it does add a certain flavor to it. I
I,
think
for what
you
it's
got to
worth, I
keep
do
it. Yeah,
also have blitzphd.com just in
fair
case
enough.
as like a redirect, but like I had to.
Just to make sure, just to make sure. Well, friends, listen, we got a couple people already coming into the session through the call screen. The number to call in is 720-619-2288. I think there's a web calling link in the description of the video. I think if you're outside of the US, if you're inside of the US, you got to use the number on the screen. It doesn't matter what God you believe in. We'd love to talk to you about your God concepts. We'd love to talk to anyone who thinks maybe they got a decent argument or a piece of evidence or a scientific fact for God. We're happy to entertain it. And we've got two in the queue now. So we got one theist and one agnostic. Typically, we prioritize the theists. So we'll take our theists first. But we will take, obviously, agnostics and atheists. We just have to prioritize the debates. But our first call is Bennett, who's a theist. And I believe Bennett is calling from Idaho and saying Christianity is a better explanation for empathy and compassion than evolution. And I guess we'll have to get into that. So Bennett, you're on the hang up with Justin and Blitz. How you doing?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. This is my first time calling into a show before, so thank you. Yeah,
Sure thing, yeah.
I believe that Christianity is a better explanation for humans having empathy and compassion because evolution favors survival of the fittest and survival and reproduction. And even though sometimes empathy and compassion can certainly help a group or a species survive, there are plenty of situations in which that might run counter to our survival instincts.
Sure. So I think we've kind of got two paths to go down. One is like whether or not empathy is better explained by the Bible, or if it's explainable at all in Christianity. And then the other is whether or not evolution can account for it. I think the point you want to start with is probably evolution. Is there, can you flesh out like why evolution isn't like a vehicle that can get you to empathy, especially in social creatures? Like human beings are a little bit different than, say, other animals. Like we're different than lions, we're at the top of the food chain and we're social. So, as far as I can tell, empathy is a mechanism that helps us to survive as a social species. I would see it as very valuable. It causes us to take care of our young. It causes us to take care of the weaker in the pack and to protect each other. So, as far as I can tell, it's a good thing. If there's a reason why it would be a bad thing and it would prohibit our survival, I'd love to hear it.
Well, yeah, as you mentioned, empathy leads us to take care of the weaker ones amongst either our human species or the tribe. But there are certain situations, for example, a shortage of food, where if you were to share your food with people who could not contribute in any way to the tribe, it might cause you all to starve. And so that would be counter survival.
I don't know of like animals or tribes that typically would share to the point of starvation. I think most people who are empathetic enough to share understand that you can only share so much, like if you want to survive yourself. And I think even animals have that capacity. We've done sharing tests with different birds and whatnot, primates and whatnot. We'll do sharing tests, token tests to see if they have empathy for the animal next to them that might have gotten cheated in the procedure. But I don't know of any example where like an animal would give or so much that they themselves would be disadvantaged by it.
Well, yes, but and sure, yeah, an animal might not do that, but there are humans who would gladly, sacrifice ourselves to allow a fellow human to survive, whether in the context of starvation or
But
something
that's
else.
different, right?
Yeah.
So the claim is not the important distinction here is it sounded like you were saying that either you feed the weak and then the whole community suffers, but that's distinct from feeding a weak person and then you individually suffer as a result. So
Hmm.
when we're talking about social species as far as evolution is concerned, really the evolutionary unit is not the individual. It is the small community, the tribe, the family group, the neighborhood, if you will. And so, if there are actions that will promote the survival of that smallest group, which is the community or the tribe or whatever, that will be selected for, even if it's detrimental to the individual.
Oh, okay, interesting. But wouldn't that lead our society then to prioritize the well-being of the whole society at the expense of certain individuals' rights?
The concept of rights is not really an evolutionary concept. The concept of rights is not really even a Christian concept. The concept of rights is like a enlightenment concept.
Yeah, like naturalistic law.
Yeah, I mean, like the whole question of like evolutionary developments as far as like social species are concerned, this was not nobody was concerned about rights. They were just noticing they had an evolutionary drive to see, oh, hey, my brother's infant is is hungry because my brother went off on the hunt and he never came back. I guess I'm going to share some of my food with that infant because that
Hmm.
infant is related to me and we share genes together. And so if that infant survives, then my genes are more likely to be propagated.
Well, yes, of course. In that instance, compassion would help propagate, I guess, your brother's genes through your nephew or your niece. However, we still have compassion for those who cannot spread the group's genes. For example, those who are past the age of reproduction or those who are unable to reproduce. We still have compassion for those people. And I think that Christianity is a better argument for the fact that we have compassion for those
Well,
people than
but
evolution.
but they play a role in the community as well. Like so,
And to
these
be
are people that are
clear,
going to be caring for those young typically. Go ahead,
and to
Blitz.
be clear, those people who cannot reproduce, ancient hominids 2 million years ago had no way of evaluating whether or not somebody was fertile or not, right? They couldn't tell if your swimmers were swimming the wrong direction.
Of course, yes.
Yeah.
But
I guess
and so
maybe
so
for
the point is that like all you need is an evolutionary drive to be compassionate towards your in-group. And that would be enough, even if it's sometimes misdirected in a way that doesn't actually help the in-group survive. If 90% of the time that compassion is directed in the right direction towards helping the starving infant who would otherwise perish, or making sure that your brother's wife is living long enough so that she can give birth to your nephew, or making sure that your cousin survives the injury from the woolly mammoth or whatever. As long as these instances of compassion are directed towards the things that would help survival most of the time, if it gives a few false positives occasionally, that wouldn't be selected against. It wouldn't hurt your survival chances more than it would help.
Okay. Again, I think that I definitely agree that helping people younger than you who are able to reproduce is definitely a survival advantage, strength. But in the context of, and maybe they wouldn't have known whose swimmers were working, or, their sperm cells, of course. But if, for the example of, I don't know, say organ donation, right? If you had one person who had not consented to donate their organs when they die and they're about to die, and theoretically you could save a bunch of people by going against this person's will and stealing
Organ
their
donation
organs.
didn't exist in the prehistoric times.
Of course, but I'm saying that our modern instincts of compassion and empathy and rights, I don't think they would have evolved from a community that was focused on survival of the fit, or survival in that sense, because you could save 5 of your children by stealing an old person's organs. That would help
Wait,
us survive.
I want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. Survival of the fittest doesn't mean that you're destroying the weak. That's not what that means. It just means that you're more capable of adapting to whatever environment that you're in. What happens to some of these, other branches of the evolutionary tree doesn't mean that they just disappear because you preyed on them. I don't think we should be interpreting survival as the fittest as these people have to, eliminate those people over there. You know what I mean?
And also,
Of
just
course.
just as a point of reference, just because I get that this is confusing for a lot of people, and I guess it requires explaining. You don't When we're talking about evolving like empathy or evolving compassion, we're not talking about evolving what to do in every scenario. What we're talking about is evolving a psychological predisposition to feel bad for something. And so like if and to be clear, evolving behaviors is a very long process. Generally, the rule of thumb is that evolution takes place at the surface first. It's fastest at the surface, and it takes longer the deeper into the body you go because the external environment has less of an impact. Um, and so, really, what we're talking about is just evolving this idea of thing needs help, help the thing. Like a very, very rudimentary idea. And once you have that, 90% of the time, the things that you see that need help are going to be your in group. And that'll be enough. And so if you just evolve that very, very simple psychological mechanism, then when it turns out that we develop this technology of organ transplantation, we develop, the notions of rights that come from the Enlightenment era, when we develop these complex moral and legal codes, all of those things might stem from this instinct we have to help those things that need help. But that doesn't mean that the things that we do today were evolved. It just means that they come from this kind of more primal, uh, more fundamental, foundational concept of we have an urge to help things that need help.
Of course, and I agree. Of course, as a Christian, I believe we should help people who need help. But if we could go back to that specific example, if I had to choose between helping and say they were my children, they had my genes, at the expense of, and I understand that survival of the fittest does not mean preying on the weak, of course. But if I had the opportunity to steal someone's organs and they were already past the age of reproduction, and I could benefit 5 other people by giving them those stolen organs, surely the idea of surviving and propagating my genes would lead me to want to steal those organs, and yet it does not.
The your your psychology doesn't know, or your drive to propagate your genes doesn't know about organ transplantation. It doesn't
Of
know how
course.
any of that functions. All it knows is that, look, thing need help, help thing. That's what your, it's not your lizard brain. That's what your primate brain knows, right?
Yeah, it's almost involuntary. So, and this is something that I've looked into recently because I think maybe Matt mentioned it. The way empathy works is almost involuntary. We've got neurons in our brains. Like when I stub my toe, there are neurons that fire in my brain. When somebody else stubs their toe and I see it, those same neurons fire in my brain as if I stub my toe. And that's what empathy is. Empathy is the ability to feel emotionally and even sometimes physically the pain of others. And we have enough intelligence to know that if they're in pain and we don't like pain, then it's beneficial to help. And if you were in that situation, you would want help too. I don't think all of this is somebody sitting down and thinking like, oh, what do I need to do to propagate my genes? I'm not sure that's how it works.
Well, then, okay. So you're saying that in animal species, I mean, obviously they're not thinking about propagating genes in that intellectual abstract way, but they are acting on instinct in a way to propagate their genes. Wouldn't that instinct lead us, even though the animals don't know about organ donations, when we develop the science for organ donations, wouldn't that same instinct carry over and lead us to want
It,
to prioritize maximal survival of maximal individuals?
yes, it would. Well, so Justin, you disagree, but I'll make my point. It
Yeah.
would if our in groups were still as small as they were when we were evolving. So our in
Yeah.
groups a million years ago were 150 people at max, right? That's why we can only really keep track of that many. Like, if you think about like the number of people whose names you know, like your friends, your acquaintances, your family members, it'll cap out at like 150-ish. So anybody
Good
else,
point.
we
Good
just
point.
we just didn't even care about them. They weren't part of your in group. I'm gonna go bash their heads open with rocks and steal their food so I can feed my nephew. That was absolutely
Mhm.
a thing that happened. The thing is because our world has gotten so much more connected nowadays, and we recognize the humanity of each other more now than we did before because now we have ways of communicate. Like you're in Idaho right now, I'm in Arizona. We're communicating across hundreds of miles, right? So our in groups have shrunk or have expanded considerably. And so now I don't think of you as something I don't care about. I think of you as a member of the same kind of person, the same kind of group I am, a human. And so because our in groups have gotten bigger, that's hijacked our empathetic responses. And so the way that we think about treating other people is a lot kinder now, even if they're very distantly related to us, than it would have been a million years ago. And that's just because the world's gotten smaller, not because we've gotten more empathetic. But to be clear, um, if you had told a person, your average person in 1820s Alabama, that their dying child could be saved if only they cut out the liver of a black man and fed it to their child, you could bet your ass they'd do it. Because they didn't
Well,
think of black people as
I
part of their in
certainly
group.
do.
Most of them, not all of them.
So I do understand how our in group has expanded to all of humanity, and maybe that would, of course, that would want us to or lead us to have compassion for other people. But I still think that the Christian explanation is a better overall explanation for us having empathy because God wrote His commands on every human heart.
Okay, so it sounds like what you're saying now is you accept that evolution can at least account for why we have empathy. You just think that Christianity does a better job accounting for it. So, Justin, I guess it's your turn.
Yeah, I don't think Christianity does, because like humans can't agree on what those laws are, right? So if God wrote the laws on our hearts, we should have some general agreement on what those laws are. And the reality is we don't. For example, and even the people who wrote our Bible couldn't agree on some of these laws. Is it okay to sell your daughter as a concubine? Yeah, the Bible seems to be okay with it. Do you think modern Christians are okay with that? No. Is it okay to own a slave, sell your children as slaves, buy a slave, capture slaves from the nations that you go to war with? These are things that modern people would say, no, this is actually not okay. But in the Bible, it certainly would be okay, right? And that's okay if you have people in the Bronze Age making these laws, right? The problem with the Bible is that God is timeless, and he said that his laws are perfect and eternal, and they'll be going on forever. And so that tells me that the God of the Bible, we left those morals behind. We're way more empathetic than this Bible teaches people to be. And I understand that Jesus came along later and tried to kind of change the tone, but I don't think it actually fixes anything because he still advocates for some horrific things.
Okay, yeah, you brought up some examples, I think in possibly Deuteronomy 20 or Deuteronomy 22. And yes, it's true that the Old Covenant commanded things which we would consider to be barbaric nowadays. But I believe the reason we consider those to be barbaric is because of the influence that Christianity's had in our society and our morals.
But Christianity made the barbaric laws. The God of the Bible made the laws, right? So Christianity isn't responsible for making them less barbaric. Jesus says to follow the laws that his dad gave. Technically, he gave them, but also his dad gave them because the Trinity's weird.
Well, yes, Jesus is the son of Yahweh or Jehovah in the Old Testament. And yeah, Yahweh commanded things which we find disagreeable nowadays, but Jesus freed us from under the law, so we no longer have to obey those verses in Deuteronomy 20 that you mentioned about concubines and, fighting other nations.
Well, I think there's two issues there. And one is that the New Testament has multiple authors. Two of them vehemently disagree on whether or not this law has been abolished. So Jesus actually agrees with the Old Testament. He agrees with Yahweh that the law has not been abolished and that it's going to be in effect and that you need to follow it. Now, Jesus doesn't, only on one occasion does he seem to make it a salvation issue, but typically he doesn't seem to make following the law a salvation issue. It's more about a sanctification type of issue. He says you'll be least in the kingdom of heaven if you don't follow the laws and you teach others to not follow the laws. He said you'll be great in the kingdom of heaven if you follow them and teach others to follow them. So this tells me that Jesus agrees with his dad on these barbaric laws, which is why in Matthew 7 or Matthew 15 and Mark 7, he advocates for stoning children that curse their mother and father. People after Jesus, Romans, Greeks, when they were converting to religion, they said, we don't like these laws. We certainly don't like circumcision. We got to do something about this. And they got rid of the laws. This has nothing to do with Jesus. These laws disappearing have to do with people who came after Jesus died.
You mentioned a verse about Jesus commanding children to be stoned. What was the citation for that verse?
Matthew 15, you can start in verse 1, and he's criticizing the Pharisees for not following the law of Moses explicitly because they're following the oral tradition. So you probably know the oral tradition, also called tradition of the elders in the book of Matthew, was partially documented in the Talmud. It's a law code that was supposedly passed down orally, and Jesus doesn't like it. He goes to battle against the oral tradition quite a bit, and Matthew 15 is one of those occasions. And he says, because he's being questioned, hey, why are your disciples not washing their hands? And Jesus is like, it's not in Moses' law. This is not a thing we have to do. It's in your tradition, right? So what he says, though, says, they do not wash their hands before they eat. And he answered them, and why do you break the commandment of God for the sake of your own tradition? For God said, honor your father and mother, and whoever speaks evil of father or mother must surely die. But you say that whoever tells father or mother whatever support you might have had from me is korban, or given to God, then that person need not honor father or mother. So for the sake of your tradition, you nullify the word of God, you hypocrites. So Jesus is saying you're hypocrites because you've created a second set of laws that nullifies God's laws, the laws you're supposed to be following. And the prime example that he gave is you're not executing children that curse their parents.
Oh, so are you saying that, well, I certainly don't think Jesus would have approved of that. Elsewhere he says, let the little children come to me, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to them, or such as these.
These aren't little children. They're old enough to be accountable. They're above the age of 13. They're 13 or older, which makes they're not minors anymore. What in the Jewish tradition, once you're 13 or older, you can be liable to capital punishment.
Oh, is that specified in the Old Testament that 13 is the age that you become an adult?
No, it's specified in the Talmud. The Old Testament doesn't give a specific age, but it does tell you that there is an age of accountability when you know right and wrong. And you'll find it in various locations. Like Isaiah 7, verse 16, talks about when the child is old enough to know right from wrong. So they obviously have an idea that children will have an age at which they know right from wrong and they'll be accountable for it. But it doesn't actually give you a specific age. All I can tell you is from Jewish history, the age has been 13, which is why you have your bar mitzvah and your bat mitzvah at 13.
Okay. Well, I certainly think that we got a little tangled up there. I guess I want to return to my more general point that Jesus, he did not abolish the law. I think it's in Matthew 5:18 where he says he's not come to abolish it, but to fulfill it, which means that we're
Matthew
no longer...
5:17, yeah.
Oh, wow. Good catch.
You were close.
I was close indeed. And so he's not come to abolish it, he's come to fulfill it, which means that we're not obligated to obey the ceremonial and the civil commands in the Old Testament.
But that would mean abolish. When you get rid of them, that's what abolish means. That's not what fulfill means. So that would be a contradiction. If Jesus says, I didn't come to abolish the laws, I came to get rid of them. That's just a straight contradiction.
Well, there is a difference between abolishing a law and fulfilling a law.
What's the difference?
And correct me if I'm wrong. Like, okay, so just as an example, one of the laws that it's a duty in the United States, it's not a negative law, it's a positive law, is you have to file your taxes, right? You have to. It's a law. You're commanded to file your taxes. If you don't, you go to jail, right? Or you get harassed by the IRS for however long. So if I came around, if I was a new president, and I said, I came not to abolish the tax code, but to fulfill it, it sounds like that would just mean that I, as president, am going to file my taxes. And everybody else will have to do it too, but I'm going to fulfill my duty to file my taxes.
Yeah.
And so will everyone else will have to do it too.
To reinforce what Blitz is saying, because this is exactly what Jesus is saying, he says he came to fulfill the law and the prophets. The law and the prophets. That means he's doing something that is in the law and the prophets, but he's not saying that they're going away.
Well, that's a good point. And so, yes, he's fulfilling the law and the prophets. And I think that what that means is that all of the sacrificial laws are pointing towards the sacrifice of Jesus. All of the prophets, including what you mentioned, Isaiah 7, the child knowing right from wrong. I think that's a prophecy about Jesus. And so that's what he says that's what he means when he says that he fulfills the law and the prophets.
So unfortunately, Isaiah 7, verse 14 has nothing to do with Jesus. We can talk about that next. But what he's saying here is that he did not come to get rid of the laws. He came to make them better and to do them, which is why in the same chapter, he tweaks some of them. He reinforces them to make them even more stringent, right? Because he says, your righteousness must exceed even that of the Pharisees. So whatever you think fulfill means, it will never mean abolish, because that would be a contradiction, which is why the next two verses, he tells you that you have to follow the law. Verse 19, it says, whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does them and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. So the structure is, I didn't come to abolish the law. I came to fulfill the laws. If you don't follow them, you're going to be least. If you do follow them, you'll be great. A basic reading would lead one to believe that Jesus obviously wants you to follow these laws.
I think that when he says follow these commands, he's not referring to the Old Testament laws. He's referring to the instructions he's giving on the Sermon on the Mount, these new commands from the New Covenant.
No, he referred specifically to the antecedent of the law and the prophets in the same breath. Do not think I've come to abolish the law or the prophets. So he's talking about the law of Moses. That's why he says, whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments. These obviously refers to the law, which is the topic. He hasn't introduced any tweaks yet.
Okay. Well, I guess overall, I still think that, Jesus' impact on society through Christianity and the laws that God has put in our hearts, I still think that's just a better explanation for our compassion for people weaker than us.
Well, I don't think so, because if God wrote the law in people's heart, then it seems like it'd be a barbaric law, for God called people to do horrible things.
Are you talking about, again, the Old Testament, like Deuteronomy 20 and those sorts of rules?
That's God's law code. And he says that he's going to have that law code forever, even in the end. So, like, have you read much of the Old Testament?
Yes, I've read the entire Bible many times.
Okay. So in Deuteronomy 30, God tells you pretty explicitly that this law code is going to be followed like literally forever, even in the Messianic age. So, for example, verse 6, he says, the Lord your God will circumcise your heart and the heart of your descendants so that you will love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, in order that you may live. Now, according to the New Testament, when is the period where God circumcises the hearts of the people?
I don't want my heart
Circumcising the heart.
circumcised.
I didn't even want
Yes,
my other thing circumcised.
Yeah, I think that circumcision of the heart is, I mean, it has to be a metaphorical phrase. It can't literally, I mean, they didn't have the technology to do that back then.
Sure. Yeah. Blitz is making enough money.
But so you were saying that in Deuteronomy 30, there's a verse when it said that the Torah would last forever? Where is that?
Well, there's a bunch of them, but I want to walk through verse by verse to show you what's happening. In Deuteronomy 30, we start in verse 6, where he says that the Lord your God is going to circumcise the hearts of you and your descendants, right? Now, Paul says that the circumcision of the heart happens when you accept Jesus. This is the circumcision of the heart, right? So the circumcision of the heart has to be after Jesus died, or at least sometime in the future after Jesus died. It didn't happen prior to Jesus dying, or else it wouldn't have, believing in Jesus wouldn't be the circumcision of the heart. Can we agree on that?
I think I see what you're saying. Where in the New Testament did Paul say that again? Was it Galatians or somewhere else?
I want to say he mentioned it first in Romans. Let me find it real quick.
Oh, perhaps Romans 2:29.
I think that might be the one, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I can read that. It says, or maybe back to 28. A man is not a Jew because he is one outwardly, nor is circumcision only outward and physical. No, a man is Jew because he is one inwardly, and circumcision is a matter of the heart by the Spirit, not the written code. Such man's praise does not come from men, but from God. Yeah, so I guess Paul is talking about spiritual renewal and comparing that with the physical operation that was prescribed in the Old Testament for the Old Covenant.
You nailed it, right? So Paul says circumcision of the heart is this thing that happens when your heart is renewed through the accepting of Jesus Christ and the sacrifice. You'd think of like Romans 10:9 and 10, if you believe that Jesus died for your sins and rose from the dead, and confess with your mouth, so on and so forth, right? The regeneration of the heart through Jesus is basically what Paul is considering the circumcision of the heart, and what most Christians would say as well. Can we agree on that?
Oh, yes, I believe that's what the circumcision of the heart is. Yeah, and then you want to tie that back to Deuteronomy 36?
Yeah, because that's what it says, right? God will circumcise your heart and the heart of your descendants. We would understand that to be at least at some point in the Messianic age, not prior to it, right?
Well, of course, I think that's even more proof that Christianity is true, because Deuteronomy 30, verse 6 foreshadows the work of Jesus and the Romans letter by Paul.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because if you keep reading the passage in verse 8, he says, then you shall again obey the Lord, observing all of his commandments that I'm commanding you today. So Moses is saying in Deuteronomy that when God does this, when God circumcises the hearts of the people, you're going to obey all of these commandments.
And those I guess I had not made that connection between follow all the. Well, Christians we are not obligated by the commands of the Old Covenant. Of course, Jesus freed us from that obligation when he died on the cross and fulfilled all of the sacrificial law.
Not according to God.
Didn't we
according
just
to
have
Paul,
that conversation?
Maybe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Paul said that. Ephesians chapter 2, verse 14 and 15, Galatians 3, 23 to 26. Paul says it quite a few times, but Paul disagrees with Yahweh and Jesus.
Notably, lots of Christians seem to take Paul's word instead of Jesus's.
It's pretty wild.
Maybe we should call it Paulianity.
Yeah, Paulianity, yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, Paul talks about how we are no longer obligated to fulfill the law because of Jesus' work on the cross.
Right, but my point is Paul is contradicting Jesus' own words and Yahweh's own words, right? So if the Bible has some sort of consistency, you have to start with the Old Testament. That's the basis for anything. Like, you only know about this God because the Old Testament came first, or the Hebrew Bible. So the reality is, everything in the Messianic age has to somehow match what the Hebrew Bible says, or else you're not in the Messianic age. So what we have in the New Testament is lots of contradictions of the Hebrew Bible. In the Hebrew Bible, God gave you all these laws, and he said to do them forever. Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 1 and 2, Deuteronomy 11, verse 1, Deuteronomy 12, 28, and so on. He says that you're going to follow these laws forever, perpetual. There's perpetual statutes for you. Even the Day of Atonement, Leviticus 16, he says, do it on this particular day and this particular month every year. This is a perpetual statute for you throughout all of your generations.
Okay, I mean, that's certainly a good point. I think that when he says perpetual, he means perpetual for the Israelite nation for the duration of the Old Covenant. I don't think he means spilling into the New Covenant as well.
Sorry, so you think perpetual means not forever?
What I heard.
Well, I mean, of course, yeah, perpetual does, usually it means forever, but in the context of the law, it forever applied to the Israelites for as long as they were looking towards their Messiah. And once the Messiah came, then they were under a new
So it was
law,
forever
which was
until
also,
it stopped?
I mean, I understand that you're making me look silly here, but it's for the duration
You're
of
doing
the
it
ancient.
yourself. Like, I mean, you're saying, like, you're trying to say that it's perpetual, except it stops at some point. Make it make sense.
I think maybe the perpetual aspect of the Old Testament law is the fact that when Jesus comes and he fulfills the law, Jesus is also perpetual. And so that's where the perpetuality comes in, is in Jesus's reign, not the literal following of the Old Testament law itself.
But that seems like a fundamental misunderstanding of what the Hebrew Bible would say then. The Hebrew Bible didn't say one day you'll spiritually follow these laws. That's a meaningless thing. I don't even know what it means to spiritually follow a law.
How do you
It's like,
spiritually do Yom Kippur?
yeah.
Like, like it's already a spiritual thing.
Well, if you're talking about Yom Kippur and the other Hebrew, the Israelite festivals, Paul even says that, whether or
Yom
not you
Kippur is not
follow
a festival, by the way. It's the Day of Atonement.
or I'm sorry, but
It's
it
the
is a
most
holy
solemn day of the year.
Okay, maybe not a festival, but it is a holy day. Wouldn't you agree?
Most holy day of
Sure.
the year, yeah.
Yeah, and so Paul says that Christians are not to judge each other by whether or not we observe the Sabbath or the other holy days. It's something that's changed in the New Covenant.
Well, I
So
don't think
Paul
he
is
said that, though.
contradicting God?
I believe it's Paul's letter to the Colossians. He says, "Do not let anyone judge you with regard to a
Yeah,
Sabbath."
Paul said that. I thought I misheard you. I thought you said Jesus said it. Jesus definitely didn't say that.
No. I meant Paul's letter to the Colossians. If I said Jesus, forgive me.
Gotcha. I could have misheard you. I don't know if you said Jesus or Paul, but I thought you said Jesus. That's why I said that.
Like,
Okay, yeah.
look,
Yeah,
if
I
by
guess-
Christianity you just mean what Paul says, then sure, perhaps we're in agreement that, like, you don't have to follow the old law. But then you're just not really doing the whole Christianity thing right.
Yeah.
I guess maybe I'll have to take another look at that Deuteronomy 36 because I guess they do talk about the modern covenant.
There's a couple.
But yeah, you've certainly given me a lot of things to think about, and so I will go do my homework, and maybe I'll call in again sometime.
Let me give you one more passage to read. It's a short one. It won't take much of your time. Take a look at Ezekiel 44, verses 6 through 9. So in Ezekiel, chapter 40 and beyond, we get this idolized state where the temple is rebuilt, Israel is reapportioned, the Messiah is already there. The Messiah shows up in chapter 36 and 37. Then you've got the war of Gog and Magog, and then you've got the new Jerusalem, new temple, so on and so forth, new apportionment of the tribes. What he says is going to happen, right, in this final state where God has everything set up perfectly the way he actually wanted it. He talks about what's going to happen with the foreigners, the people who join with the worship of Yahweh. And he says, no foreigner uncircumcised in the heart and flesh of all foreigners who are among the people of Israel shall enter my sanctuary. So he's saying, if foreigners want to come worship me, they're going to be circumcised in the flesh. That's the law.
Oh, I see. Let's see. Ezekiel 44, verse 9. This is what the sovereign Lord says. No foreigner uncircumcised in heart and flesh will enter the... That's okay, I guess that's difficult to reconcile with what Jesus and Paul say later on.
Right.
Huh.
And if you're receptive, I'll give you just one more. I apologize because it's a powerful passage. You've probably read the end times battle in Zechariah, chapter 12 and chapter 14. In Zechariah, we find this end times battle where God brings all the nations against Israel, but then he delivers Israel. And then near the end of the chapter, he kind of talks about what's going to happen after that war, right? But in chapter 14, the most interesting thing happens, right? He says what he's going to do with the nations after that war. It says, all who survive of the nations that have come against Jerusalem shall go up year after year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the festival of booths. If any of the families of the earth do not go up to Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, there will be no rain upon them. And if the family of Egypt do not go up to present themselves, there will be no rain for them. And he goes on and on. And then he says, on that day there shall be inscribed on the bells of the horses, holy to the Lord, and the cooking pots in the house of the Lord shall be as holy as the bowls in front of the altar. And every cooking pot in Jerusalem and Judah shall be holy to the Lord of hosts, so that all who sacrifice may come and use them to boil the flesh of the sacrifice. So this Armageddon that you probably read from Revelation that actually comes from Zechariah 12 and 14, in the Hebrew Bible, it's anticipating that after this battle, all the nations will come and serve this God and follow these laws.
So are you saying this is referring to end times in the or the Christian era, as opposed to the Old Testament? I think this prophecy was about being delivered from either Babylon or whoever was oppressing the Israelites at that time. I think it was a pre-Messianic prophecy.
Well, Zechariah was already written after the Babylonian exile.
But I think that Zechariah's prophecies were about Israel being restored in the Old Testament when they were, or are you saying that during the exile he wrote this, or after the exile?
It appears to be post-exilic, so it might have been like the couple years after they were freed, like 538, 539. But I think most scholars place it or like at the end of that century, like around 510, 505, shortly after the exile. Because it's before the restoration of the people. It's anticipating like Joshua and Zerubbabel taking charge, and they were alive at that time period, just after the exile.
Huh. I guess I don't know a lot of the background or context of Zechariah. One possible explanation is that this was fulfilled by Jesus' reign, but in a more spiritual sense. So, circumcision of the hearts rather than literal physical circumcision.
How do you celebrate the Festival of Booths spiritually?
Well, let's see. What's the Festival
Ice
of Booths?
fishing.
That was a time that it was a time of going out into the wilderness, I believe, and living.
Build
in
a hut
tents
and you
for a
live in
week.
it for a few days.
Yeah,
And there's
and
some
so-
rituals associated with it, but like a week
Right,
actually,
and so-
not a few days.
So maybe that it was intended to foreshadow how when Jesus comes, each Christian is a tabernacle who has the Spirit living within us. So I think that's how you would spiritually fulfill that prophecy, is that every single one of us is a tabernacle.
But it says you have to go up to celebrate it according to the laws. Like, so the way it was practiced is you actually had to join the festival. You have to go up to where it's going to happen. So the laws are very specific, right? In fact, in the same verse, it says that you're going to boil the flesh of the sacrifice in pots.
Okay, I'll have to look at this again, I'm sure. And so I certainly have my homework to do. Thank you for letting me call in, and I'm sure that I will call in again.
Yeah, hey, good to hear from you, Bennett. Thanks for calling in. One of the things I love the most is talk about the Bible. I promise you, if you are bringing an argument from the Bible, we'll find something to talk about.
And if you're bringing an argument
Okay.
that has to do with science, I'm happy to talk about it too.
All right. Well, thank you very much again, and challenge accepted.
All right. Cheers, friend.
Bye-bye.
You don't get too many Christians that have that disposition when you start talking about the Bible. They usually get a little worked up, but
Yeah,
I
he
think
was
pretty
super
well.
charitable, super good faith.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. We've got, I think, another theist in queue, and then an atheist in queue. I think our
We have a few
agnostic
theists
dropped.
in queue and oh yeah, no, never mind. Yeah, we do have another theist in queue.
Right. I think it's Gohan. Now, I think I might have talked to Gohan before. I don't know
I
about
haven't.
you, Blitz.
I don't think
Okay.
so.
Well, Gohan, welcome in. You're on the hang up with Justin and Dr. Blitz. and you're saying that the gates of hell are locked from the inside. Can you tell us what that means and why we should care?
Yes. Hi. Well, first off, how are you guys doing?
Good.
Wednesday
Been better.
afternoon, you guys doing good?
Poor Blitz is sick right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
I chained
I'll
him
be
up
okay.
and forced him to work.
uh, well, I mean, I've actually wanted to talk to both of you guys for a while about the Shroud of Turin. Dr. Blitz, there were some things I wanted to talk with you about the physics behind it. And
Sure.
then anything historical, I would love to talk with Justin, but that would have to wait for another time. Just maybe I'll call back in the future and talk to you guys about it. But
Sure.
yeah, I'm happy you're both here. I'm sorry you're sick.
It's okay. I'll get over it.
And
So,
Justin, I think I spoke to you about 2 or 3 weeks ago about this
Yep.
topic on your show. I was trying to see if we could kind of continue our conversation, and maybe we could just give a quick summary of our conversation to bring everybody up to speed.
Yeah. If you, I've talked to so many people, you might have to summarize it for me though. I do have.
No
What
worries.
show were we talking on my channel?
Yes, on your show. Do
Okay,
you have
so
multiple channels?
so we talked on the 27th, and I did write notes, by the way. So, but go ahead and catch everybody up to where we left off.
Well, I'd actually appreciate if after I go, you tell me if like I represented you unfairly since you have notes down. So after I go, if you could kind of respond to my history of it.
Mhm.
Okay. So this is a topic I want to bring up because I hear it a lot on atheist call-in shows or just a lot of debates about even if God was real, he wouldn't be worthy of worship because he's evil, and one of the most evil things he does is he sends people to hell for infinite torture for a finite crime. So regardless of what the crime is, it's outweighed by the torture. So I wanted to kind of combat that view and explain that going to hell is not based off of God sending you there. It's based on your own individual choice. And then me and Justin kind of went back and forth on that, whether it's like, this is just a small fringe view that like C.S. Lewis had, but really wasn't carried well throughout anywhere else. Me being a Catholic, I was saying that it's in the catechism. And Justin kind of showed me some citations in the catechism that might disagree with that. I found some after the call that kind of agrees to show that heaven and hell is based off a choice to be in a personal relationship with God or not.
Yeah,
Did I,
we agree.
Okay,
But
so
that's the problem, though, right? I don't know if we got to that part, but that's the problem with hell.
And then my phone was dying, and I couldn't really even finish the call. So
Okay.
You brought up the fact that I think you said Catechism 1030. Yeah, you took notes. Am I right when you said 1030?
It's hard to recall. It's hard to recall now. I didn't write down the actual passages that we're talking about, but it was around there.
Okay. Yeah. So.
So how about we just briefly talk about, because I think most people know what you're referring to when you say that we send ourselves to hell. But to me, I think there's two problems. One is I don't think that's true, because Jesus says that you will be thrown into hell, right? He says it is better to lose one of your members than to be thrown into hell. And then in Matthew 25, when he comes to judge, Matthew 25:31, he says he's going to come, sit on the throne, separate the sheep from the goats, and then he's going to send some to paradise and some to what we would call hell, right? And so, or lake of fire. So nevertheless, I mean, it seems like Jesus is the one directing people where they're going to go, which is why in Revelation 14, those people are in the lake of fire in front of the presence of the Lamb.
So this call is like based on a lot of assumptions, so I understand that's not really fair for me to make you guys have certain assumptions. But again, this is trying to defend a common mainstream Christian view. So we could argue if it's the correct Christian view. You could argue that, yes, all the Christians have the wrong view. But I would like to argue, even if that is the case, this is still the mainstream Christian view, which was a topic we disagreed on last time.
So, do you think that it's actually the case that someone would choose to be tortured? Sorry, I was in the middle of a sentence. I was just coughing. Do you think it's actually the case that someone would choose to be tortured for eternity rather than go hang out with a god that he doesn't worship?
So I would say that's not the choice. The choice isn't torture or heaven. The choice is Jesus or not Jesus. And then there are byproducts.
Okay, so is there suffering happening in the not Jesus choice?
Yes.
You know, like eternal conscious torment?
I would say eternal torment because you're not with Jesus. Yes.
Okay, so do you think that anybody, so considering that the gates could be open, if the gates are indeed locked from the inside, the gates could be open. So like, suppose that I don't know going in that like, oh, it's going to be like horrible if I choose not Jesus. So I choose not Jesus. And then I end up in hell. I'm like, God, this sucks. And that's ironic if I would say that, right? But I'm like, God, this sucks. I'm going to unlock the door and leave. Why wouldn't I just do that?
And that's a fair question. And the argument is, from the Christian standpoint, is that for people who really do not want to be with Jesus, the choice of being with Jesus is worse to them than the choice of being away from Jesus, no matter what the consequences are.
I think that's ridiculous. I don't know a single person ever that would rather be tortured.
Could you give me examples of people that would feel this way?
Like, have you met one? I've never met one.
Me neither.
One example I gave was, it's a fictional example, but I mean, I think that's okay since you guys think Christianity is fiction.
It's all
anyway.
fictional.
So I think it's fair if I go with the fictional example. But one example I gave was Smeagol and Gollum. So the choice for Smeagol, are we all familiar with Lord of the Rings background?
I mean, some.
Justin doesn't know anything about anything fun, so you probably need to inform him.
I'm actually allergic to fun.
Yeah, Justin, last time I talked to you, you said, I think you said those words, that you're allergic to fun. So I hope you find some route for that in the future. And,
it's hard. I grew up.
He needs allergy shots.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it's something. But to your point, though, I suspect you're saying that there are some people you believe that would rather be tortured forever in hell than to be with God. And you know what? Maybe those people exist. I don't know. What I can say is that certainly isn't the majority of people. Not even the majority of atheists. The majority of atheists just simply don't believe in this God.
Right. So, and I think that's a fair second point to try to discuss, is how do atheists...
I actually can't even think of a single person that would...
If it really is a choice of wanting to be with God or not, then...
I can't even conceptualize of a person who would ever make that choice.
So if I could give an example on that of somebody who would choose not to be with God than somebody who would choose... One is Smeagol and Gollum. The torture for Smeagol was becoming Gollum. But at the end of the day, he chose the ring regardless of the consequences. The choice was the ring or not.
But that's a cartoon, my friend.
Well,
Sorry?
it's a book.
Oh, it's a story. It's a fictional story.
Yes, and you guys say this is fictional, so I think it's fair.
Also, to be clear, it's not clear that it was torture being Smeagol. Or sorry, that it was torture being Gollum.
Yes. So the choice was
that's not clear.
Torture himself. The choice was not to torture himself to become Gollum. The choice was to choose the ring. And the byproduct of
the ring was what he wanted. He wanted in fact, he wanted the ring. So in fact that was the most good option for him. It wasn't that he was choosing to suffer. He was choosing to be joyful.
That's exactly my point.
So
So when you're
so this is
faced
not an
with a
example of somebody
choice,
choosing to suffer.
no, and that's not the example. That's not the choice. The choice isn't suffering or bliss. The choice
The
is
choice is
God or
suffering,
not.
or perhaps suffering in a
Mhm.
different way. And
Yeah,
yeah,
the
of course
choice is
that's
to
the
be in
choice.
relationship with God or not. There are byproducts to that, but the actual
Yeah, and so
choice is
people
to
will
be in
make the choice
relationship
based on
with
the
God or not.
byproducts.
No,
Yeah, I mean,
you never make. If I make a
well,
choice to be married to my wife, I don't make it based off the byproducts. Let's say she's a
yeah, but
billionaire. I don't
Wait,
make
no,
a
but
no,
did
choice
hold on.
based on
somebody?
the
Of course you
byproducts of her
do.
being a billionaire.
Hold on. This is
No, I make a
delusional.
choice.
This is the most delusional thing you've said. Look, if I married my wife because I thought it was going to be one way, and then it turns out that she was like a three-headed gorgon, and that was just a byproduct of marrying her, yeah, I would divorce her. Well, maybe not. Gorgons are cool, but like if she was also mean, then like I would divorce her, right? Like you would make the choice based off of the consequences. You would leave
So
the situation because the consequences were bad.
maybe I'm joining Justin here, but maybe I need to be educated on fun. But I have no idea what a Gordian is. But
Greek
if we
mythology.
try and continue, oh, okay. Well, thank you for that. If we go
They're
based
ladies
off,
with snakes for heads, or with snakes for
oh,
hair.
like Medusa, Medusa.
Medusa was one of the Gorgon, was one of the three Gorgon sisters. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Well, that's good information. Thank you. But so in the example of being married to your wife, the choice you're basing that off of who she is. You're not basing that off of the byproducts of like her being rich, her having a mansion, and you having
Those
a
aren't byproducts.
life inheritance. Those
A
are
byproduct
like
would be a consequence of making a certain choice, right? So suppose I marry
yeah.
her, and as a consequence of marrying her, I have to go live with her. And suppose that she's like horribly messy, like disgustingly. She's not actually like this. My wife is lovely, by the way, but in the hypothetical, then I might be like, oh, maybe this was a bad choice. I'm actually going to change my mind and leave because I don't want to live in filth, right? Like that would be a totally normal thing for people to do, and that would be making a choice or changing your mind rather based on the consequences.
But those are that's like a part of who she is, her personality. Again, hypothetical. She's
Yeah.
messy. That's a part of who she is.
Yeah, yeah,
She
yeah.
being
And then
rich
the
is
consequence
another
would
part
be
of who
having
she
to
is.
live in a messy environment.
But can you see that the part of who she is not that she's rich? Her living in a mansion is not a part of who she is.
I don't understand
But
the
her
analogy.
being
Let's stick
messy,
with the messy thing. Look, so suppose that she doesn't come off as, suppose that I don't know that she's messy, right? In the same way that if after I die, I don't know that choosing not Jesus is going to lead to conscious torment, right? Then I marry her and I find out that she is messy. In the same way that then I die and I find out, oh, not choosing Jesus meant conscious torment. Well, then I would change my mind in both scenarios.
right? But then you would, so one scenario, her being messy, that's a part of who she is.
Yeah, well,
Being
that was a
being,
part of the living in
yeah,
a messy environment is a consequence of marrying her.
yes. But being in a state of conscious torment is not
That's
a
a
part
part of
of who
rejecting
Jesus
Jesus,
is.
right? No, no, it's a part
That's
of
a part of
rejecting
rejecting
Jesus.
him.
Right,
But
right.
that's not a part of
So that's the point. That's the point. It's
So,
so
so you,
you're
oh, sorry, you
look,
were
you
saying that's the
conflate.
point. I'm sorry. I thought you said, what's the point? Sorry.
No, that's the point. The point is that
Gotcha.
in both cases, you're changing your mind based off of the consequences of some earlier decision. That's normal. People do that all the time.
Yes, but the consequence of or the byproduct of who they are is different than the byproduct of what happens afterwards.
What are you talking about?
So
Okay, we can make this
if
more in
you
line. We can make this more in line if you want. Suppose that I am married, and suppose that I, on a whim, decide to suppose that on a whim I decide to get up and leave my wife, right? And then I find out after leaving my wife that my whole life just falls to shit, which is what would happen, by the way, and I'll never leave her because she's amazing. My whole life just falls apart, right? That would be a consequence, and then I would hopefully I would go back to her and beg for her to take me back because Turns out the consequences of leaving her were awful. That would be exactly in line with rejecting Jesus. The consequences of that are awful. So then you beg to be let back in.
So I actually like this example, and if I could just make a blanket statement first, I think we're all married. So let's just say any reference to our wives is purely hypothetical. But,
I'm married to the Lord.
There
I'm
you
married
go.
to
My
science.
man. My man again. I like both those answers. But let's say you left your wife, you realize your life went to shit, and now you want to be back with your wife.
Mhm.
In that example, you're not wanting to be back with your wife for who she is. You're wanting to be back with your wife because everything else is terrible without her. So it's not
Yeah,
that you
because she
want to
made
be
my
back
life,
with her.
because she was the light of my life. She made everything
So
better.
if she was
Made life worth living.
So like that's the idea, is if it's based off of who she is, then that's comparable to Jesus. But if you're only going back to her because everything else is bad in comparison to how it was when you were with her, then that's similar
Isn't that
to
the
you
same
not
thing?
wanting
That's the
to be
same
with
thing.
people. Yeah,
That's the same
no, those
thing.
are different things. If you're married, some people would want to be with their married person regardless of how it affects their life. If my life turns to
That's
shit,
stupid. No, but that's actually stupid though.
it
Like
might
if
be
being
stupid,
married
but
to somebody is causing your life to be terrible, you shouldn't be married to that person.
I mean, as long
Yeah,
as
I
I'm
think
happy with
religious
them.
people do
But
that.
That's true.
yeah, let's say I go broke. Let's say my house burns down. Let's say
But your life is
everything
still
is
good
going
because you're
bad.
with the person that you're with, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like that's the only good thing in my life. But because I'm with her, everything else is going bad. Let's say my family leaves me because I'm with my wife. Let's say I lose my job
Yeah, but
because
it's
I'm with
still
my
better
wife.
to be with her. It's still better to be with her from your view.
Because of who
Because
she
you made
is,
the
not
choice.
because of the
So on the balance, your life is still better than if you had left her.
Yeah. That's
So my point is
pretty
that
much the
like suppose it's the case. Like I don't think that there's a single person on earth who they die, they were an atheist, say. They find out that their whole life was actually guided by Jesus, like the joys that they experienced was guided by Jesus or whatever, because Jesus is real. You die, you get judged, Jesus is real, and you go to hell because you didn't choose Jesus. Um, I think you'd be like, oh damn, this sucks not being with Jesus. I liked what I had when I was alive, when Jesus was secretly running the show, even if I didn't believe it. I'm gonna go do that again. And then they would leave
so. I
hell.
mean, you say there's nobody who would do that. I could name a
Yeah,
couple of
give
hosts
me an
on the line.
example. Give me like one example.
Well,
I've heard Matt
Gohan,
Dillahunty say that even if Jesus was real and
You don't have to worship someone to want to be there.
that's
but
what
Gohan, I
worship
think
is.
this misses
It's
the
love.
point because the phrase
Worship
from
is
C.S.
love.
Lewis, the phrase that C.S. Lewis says, which is "hell is locked from the inside," is supposed to be applying to everybody who's there, like every human who ends up there, right? So, selecting a small demographic, like, well, I've heard a couple of people say that they would never worship this god, even if they were going to get tortured. I don't think that's equivalent because what you're saying, what C.S. Lewis are saying, is that all people who end up in hell are there because it's locked from the inside. But you're pinpointing a very small subset of atheists, a tiny one, in fact.
And honestly, like just being real here, I don't. So if Matt Dillahunty died, and hopefully he doesn't. I mean, he'll die eventually. But
Yeah.
if Matt Dillahunty died today or tomorrow, and he ended up in hell, and it was conscious torment, and he had the option to go hang out with Jesus, there's no way in hell that he stays there. No pun intended.
Agreed.
He would just
let's-
grumpily go up to hang out with Jesus, and he'd be grumpy at him the whole time, and he would probably berate him, but he would still be there.
He would absolutely
not-
berate Jesus.
Can we pick somebody
Be
else?
like, how
Ryan?
dare
I
you?
don't listen to the others,
But also nice
can we
crib.
pick somebody else? I don't want to pick anybody that's like that I've talked to having died. So let's just pick imaginary Bob. So if we
Why
could
do you
just
have to pick an imaginary person if this is a real thing that happens?
Because I don't like talking about people I've talked to and people I've kind of been friendly with going into hell. But if
Gohan,
are
weren't
dying,
you banned from the line?
Wait, Gohan got
I've been-
banned? When did that happen?
Yeah,
I don't know. People in the
I've been
comments have said that a lot.
Yeah, I don't have too many friends, so it doesn't surprise me that I've been banned. So
Okay.
But either
Okay.
way, yeah, Matt doesn't have to like me. I'm just not a big fan of talking about him dying. But let's just say imaginary Bob. You guys can say Matt. I'm going to say Bob. He said multiple times that even if God is real, he is, no matter what, not going to worship the monster described in the Bible. So
Wait a minute. So
I
in
mean,
order to go to heaven, do you have to worship them? Worship Jesus?
yeah, and
That was
worship
my understanding.
worship is a relationship with God. That's what worship is.
Well, I mean,
So if you want to be
maybe
in a
that's a relationship.
relationship
Maybe
with
that's how
God,
you have a relationship with God on earth. But if you're in heaven, you can just have a relationship with God by like having a conversation.
well, I wouldn't call if you only want to have a conversation with God, I don't think you would really want to be in his presence forever, would you?
Well, no, I mean, like you could have a relationship with God by just talking with him, even if you disagree with him. You don't have to
Sure.
worship him when you're in
But
heaven.
heaven is being with God the entire time.
Look,
If you
all
don't
I'm
want
saying
that,
is
that's
that
there's another
so,
choice.
and look, not to speak ill of Matt, but I have a feeling that Matt's emotional fortitude in the face of torture is not
Yeah,
as strong as he thinks it is.
right.
Again,
These
I
are
think
hyperbolic
you guys
statements.
keep saying it's about torture. It's not about torture. Matt does not want to be with Jesus. If I'm wrong
It
on
is
that,
about.
I can be correct. But
I
from what
mean,
I've
look,
heard, he
I
wants
think
to
that
love
once he
Jesus.
hung out in hell for 100,000 years or so, he'd be like, all right, I'm sick of this. Let's go upstairs, even if I have to kiss a few boots.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
likelihood that he would
he,
change his mind seems pretty high.
I say it's pretty low. And the idea is the further away
And
you
you've
get
never
from
been
Jesus,
tortured. Not that I have, but
It
people
doesn't
do
take
I
long.
anything to
mean,
get out of like by the way, this is like a well-known phenomenon, and which is why torture is not a good way of conducting an interrogation. People will say anything to make the torture stop, right?
and what would you say is the
People will
torture?
admit to anything. They will admit to any crime that you ask them to admit to just to make the torture stop.
Hmm.
I would probably admit pretty quickly, but I don't have the strongest fortitude. But I think for
Nobody does. That's why
people
torture
like
is
Matt,
not a valid way of doing an interrogation. Which is why
I
I
think
think
for
that
people like Matt,
despite Matt's claims of his strong willpower, I think he'd give in eventually. And he'd be like, you know what? I'm gonna make this stop. I'm gonna go up there and kiss a few boots.
Hmm.
well, I
Sandals.
think for people like Matt, that real torture would be in heaven, not in hell.
Nah.
That's the classical Catholic belief, and that is supported by the
No.
Catechism. I looked it up after our call last time, Justin.
Well, that's the
I did
claim, but I just
find.
don't think it's true.
So again, you guys can say that the Christians have the biblical view of heaven and hell wrong, but this is the actual Catholic claim. So you
Well,
could say the
no,
Catholics are
I
wrong.
understand that's the Catholic claim. What I'm saying is that I don't think that that's an accurate understanding of human psychology.
Gotcha. So you're
Like,
saying
I think it's
that
just factually incorrect that anybody would choose to stay in hell.
I mean, okay. So you're saying that the Catholics are interpreting the Bible correctly, but you're saying that even if they are, it wouldn't matter because it's impossible to want to stay in torture forever. Did I phrase that correctly?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay. So I would say which one is the torture for most people? For a lot of people, it might be being away from God. For a lot of people, it might be being with God. That's the choice. That's the torture or the paradise.
Okay, so
It's
wait,
not
are you
about
telling me that it would be
being
more pleasant to be in hell than it would be to hang out with God for Matt?
that's the idea. The gates are hell locked from the inside. That's the very idea. Yes.
Okay, so then so then I mean, it just doesn't sound like hell if it's not the worst thing imaginable.
No. So the hell does not have to be the worst thing imaginable. Hell is being
Wait,
away
Oh.
from God.
is
And the
there
byproduct of
is there
Is there like
flames there?
is there like
Sorry.
is there like surf and turf in hell?
I would imagine. I have no idea. I couldn't assume why not.
Is there pegging in hell?
Very
There's
You would
probably
possible.
pegging in
imagine
hell.
so.
I mean, I bet there's lamb chops and burgers as high as you can see. I couldn't tell you, but either
Well,
way,
Starting to
then it
sound
just
pretty appealing.
I mean, like,
It could be.
look,
And that's the
Hitler
whole
was
thing.
Hitler was like an avowed Lutheran, right? He'd probably be in heaven.
Well,
But
yeah,
like
Hitler
Gandhi
believed
and
very much.
Gandhi and Albert Einstein and you know basically every musician ever, probably in hell. So I don't know. You're actually the way you're describing it, it sounds like hell's actually a pretty rad place to be.
If concert's gonna be
So
off the hook.
we could argue whether
Like
Hitler
Ozzy would
was
be
an
there,
atheist.
right?
We could argue whether Hitler was an atheist who believed in capital N nature as being the ultimate power and said that Christians are weak and disgusting. Or we
Pretty
could
sure
just
that
talk about
Hitler made the
atheist.
SS have Gott mit uns
Yeah,
on
was
their
he
belt
pretty good
buckles,
at
right?
propaganda? Was he pretty good at propaganda?
He was
Well,
good at
Goebbels
propaganda,
was.
but he did
Okay.
also make sure that the Third Reich had their own church. Like religion did have a focus in the Third Reich.
So let me.
But
I'll talk about Hitler just for a little bit, but let me just say this: the fact that
well,
so many
I was just about to ask,
Christians follow him,
is it relevant? Is
regard-
Hitler relevant to our conversation? Because or whether or not he was a Christian relevant? Because I think the point that Blitz is making is it's weird that somebody like Hitler could theoretically, if he believed, be in heaven, whereas people who just happen to not believe, like Einstein, Anne Frank, so on and so forth, would end up in hell.
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. There have been a lot of before in the past. If I could try to attack both of those points, one, if a bad person who's a Christian goes to heaven, or a good person who's an atheist goes to hell. I'm going to attack the atheist going to hell first. Again, it's about the choice of being with God or not. How can you make that choice when you don't believe God is real? That's a very fair question. There's been a lot of popes in the past that have said atheists can get into hell. I think one very clear biblical example, I talked about this on the call with you last time, Justin, was the thief on the cross next to Jesus. He ended up, Jesus said, today you'll be with me in paradise. But how could that man have been a Christian who believes that Jesus is the risen Lord when Jesus hasn't even died yet, let alone be resurrected? I mean, even the closest followers to Jesus did not recognize him as God until after he resurrected. They thought he was something unique, but they didn't really recognize him as God until after the resurrection. So there's no way this thief on the cross recognized that, while his closest followers didn't. And
Well,
yet he made
again,
it into heaven as an atheist.
the thief on
He made it into heaven.
the thief on the cross proclaimed that Jesus was the Messiah, which means he believed that Jesus was the Messiah. Paul's the one later that says, no, you actually have to believe in his death and resurrection and so on and so forth, right? Those are stipulations that were added on after his death. But prior to his death, there's a great number of people who seem like they're going to end up in paradise, even though they don't know anything about the death and resurrection of Jesus.
Right, like
Do you think
Moses,
Zachariah and Elizabeth? Do you think Zechariah, Elizabeth's husband, is going to go to heaven or hell? Because he didn't know about the death and resurrection of Jesus. He was elderly. He died before Jesus died, I would assume.
Like Transfiguration Sunday, there are examples of people who have died before Jesus died, who were clearly in heaven and came to earth. So clearly, yeah. I believe that there are people who can believe that, who can go into heaven without dying, knowing that Jesus is God. So I think that
in the Catechism, that's true. So in the Catechism, there's like this idea where if somebody, through no fault of their own, doesn't believe in this God, right? They don't know, they've never heard, they don't have information, then it's not a guarantee that they're going to be in hell. They might end up in purgatory.
Are you guys familiar with not Russian Cosmic Skeptic? I forget his name. He has a new show now.
Alex O'Connor.
He has a new show.
He's not Cosmic Skeptic anymore. I forget his name.
Yeah. So I'm thinking of somebody else
for a while. No, Alex O'Connor is Cosmic Skeptic. It's
that's why I got that. Okay.
Yes, but he changed his show. It's not Cosmic Skeptic anymore. It's I forget what it is. But either
Alex
way,
O'Connor,
it's Think.
Wait, did he change the name of it? Oh, let me find it.
No,
I didn't know he changed.
No, it's still just it's at Cosmic Skeptic. That's the username.
Yeah.
But his show is called Within Reason, like the podcasting.
It's a good show. Everyone should give it a listen. He describes himself as a wanting non-believer. So he wants to believe. He's trying to believe. Yeah, I mean, he's been exposed to the same evidence I have, yet he doesn't believe. So through no fault of his own, he is trying to find evidence, yet through no fault of his own, he doesn't believe. And am I saying that correctly? Does anyone disagree with what I'm saying?
Oh, that's
I
fine.
mean, I would imagine.
Okay, so then I would say an example like Alex O'Connor, if he dies and he's presented with the choice, do you want to be with me or not? If Jesus is saying that, and Alex O'Connor is like, hell yeah, I want to be with you. I've been looking for you for so long. I want to be with you. Then, okay. Or if he's like, you know what? I've been looking for you for so long. I'm so frustrated with you. I hate this. I hate you. Then, okay. Either choice is going to be up to Alex. Same goes for all of us. We all have that choice.
But
and we're going to be presented with it when we die.
In neither Christianity or Catholicism can you make that decision after death. Once you're dead, it's final. You're at your destination, unless you're in purgatory.
So how do you make a decision right at death, or like as the lights are closing, you make a decision? What's the ruling on that?
I mean, according to Jesus, yeah, that's what the parable of the 11th hour is supposed to demonstrate. That as long as you still have breath in your lungs, you can make your conversion.
Yeah, and again, we can name multiple people in the Bible that Jesus has said went into heaven that did not make their conversion to Christianity, correct?
But again, it's not about converting to Christianity. That's not what Jesus said. Yeah, Jesus says that you must follow me. And no point in time did he say, you're not going to go to heaven because I'm going to die after you and you're not going to know about my death and resurrection.
So how did Abraham make that choice in his dying breath, even though he died long before Jesus was born?
He didn't. That's my point. There are people that don't know about the death and resurrection of Jesus that will still be in heaven.
So he didn't make that choice with his dying breath, and he still made it to heaven. Yet you just said that Jesus said you have to make that choice with your dying breath. So I have a contradiction.
I didn't say that you have to make it with your dying breath. I said you have until your last breath, your dying breath, to make that decision to follow Jesus.
And Abraham did not. Correct? Abraham did not make that decision until his last breath.
Well, nobody prior to Jesus made that decision because Jesus didn't exist yet.
So then you have a conflict there with your definition of it. It has to be done in your dying breath.
No, I don't have a conflict. Obviously, I'm talking about people who were alive when Jesus was alive.
I don't think it said that.
I don't have to say it. It's obvious.
No, sorry, not that you. I don't think Jesus said that. I don't think Jesus said you have to make this in your dying breath while I'm alive.
Yeah, Jesus. The parable of the 11th hour is talking about people who are coming into the kingdom at the last minute. That the parable of the workers, he went out and got workers in the morning. Entering, penetrating. Oh boy. But the point is, like, listen, if you are alive, right, and you believe in your heart and confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, you're in. You don't have to do it a certain time limit before that. But again, but again, that's irrelevant, right? When Paul said in Romans 10:9-10 that you have to confess with your mouth and believe in your heart, he's obviously referring to people who know about Jesus, not people who died before Jesus. This shouldn't be. Nobody should be hung up on this point.
Can you pick a time for me that, like, a moment in time that somebody has to confess that Jesus is God before they die in order to have a relationship with him?
Yeah, I just told you, anyone who was alive when Jesus was alive or after Jesus was alive.
So people who like died before, they have an easier path into heaven than the rest of us?
Yeah, that's actually kind of... Well, no, they would have, right? Because they wouldn't have known.
Well, but if you mean before Jesus died, do you mean while he was alive? Or do you mean before he was even... Because if it's before Jesus was born, then yeah, it seems like the path is actually easier because it's more on your merit, like whether you were righteous, than if you just believe the right thing. But believing the right thing should never be a metric for being tortured.
And you're saying this is the Catholic view? That
no, that's the Jewish view.
Okay, so I'm trying to defend the Catholic view. So in the Catholic
I'm
view,
talking.
when is the cutoff point before
We're aware,
you have
Gohan. Well, I'm addressing what you and Blitz were just talking about, which is prior to Jesus, it was easier to get to heaven. And I would say it's even more fair to get to heaven in the Jewish system as well. But in the Catechism, it says that you don't get to choose after you die. Like once the lights are out, you're done.
Can you show
It
me
says,
where this is on?
yeah. Oh, dear.
Thank you.
It's 1035. The teaching of the church affirms the existence of hell and its eternity. Immediately after death, the souls of those who die in a state of mortal sin descend into hell, where they suffer the punishments of hell, eternal fire.
Immediately after death, they get to make that choice.
Nope, it says immediately after death. Immediately after death. Immediately after death, the souls of those who die in a state of mortal sin descend into hell. You are in a state of mortal sin if you don't have your sins forgiven by Jesus.
So in our last call, we kind of quickly discussed what mortal sin was. But I know this phone call has been going on for a while, so if you guys are okay, I'd like to get into this a little bit more. But
we do have some other callers.
I was hoping we could actually get to the point, which is that hell is not locked from the inside. Because that's the point you're calling, right? Hell is obviously locked from the outside because nobody can actually decide to leave. Imagine there's even one person that gets there and says, I don't want to be here. They can't leave. They're not allowed to leave. You're locked in, right? The other thing is that none of this is just. You're making it, you're trying to sound like it's just because, like, well, they're choosing to be there. No, the fuck they're not. They're not choosing to be there. People who don't believe in this God most likely don't believe in this God for a lot of good reasons. One, by reading this Bible. I read this Bible. This God's obviously not real. I'm not locking that door. God's obviously locking that door behind me. Also, any decision to love and worship somebody that comes with a threat is preposterous. If I said to imagine, somebody was going to ask your sister out, they said, listen, she's going to have the time of her life. I'll treat her great. I'll be the best date she ever had. But if she says no, I will put her in my basement and light it on fire. You're going to call the cops on that guy. But that's what Christianity is. Christianity is you will love me or you will burn. And that's the most toxic Stockholm syndrome I've ever heard of.
I think it's all fair points. If I could kind of go reverse order, talking about the love me or else torture. If I could give another example, since you gave one, I'm going to give another one. A parent with a child come to me or get hit by a car. It's not like I'm sending the car to you, but you have to come to me right now because there's a car coming to you right now. So you have to come. I'm not sending the car to you, but come to me.
It doesn't fit.
If you don't come to me, you're going to get hit by a car.
Gohan, it's not analogous. It doesn't fit. God created hell. He created the rules for who goes to hell, and he determined who's going to go there. So God is driving the car. God sent that car to hit somebody.
So the only way the car exists in this analogy is that with God, everything is safe. Away from God, nothing is safe. And that's not
what your analogy is about.
Yeah,
that's not what your analogy is about.
In my house, kid, you're safe. Out there are cars coming. So you can be with me.
Safe from the person sending the car, which is God.
It's just a natural consequence of
it's not.
reason.
Hell is not a natural consequence.
So the reasoning behind it would be...
Did God decide to create hell? Or did it just happen by mistake? Did hell just pop up? Because Matthew 25 says that God created it.
Yeah, I would say God created it.
Okay, so it wasn't a mistake. It's not a natural consequence. It's a decision that God made. God made a decision that when humans do a particular thing, this is what I will do to them. He set the rules, which means you don't get to say, oh, it's actually loving because he lets you out of hell if you do what he asks you. The fact that he will send anyone there for any reason is crazy.
We talked about this a little bit last time as well. How the laws of reason are a byproduct of God. So him being perfect, if that's the assumption, is that he's perfect. Him being perfect, being with him would be perfect. Being away from perfection would always give you longing for perfection.
It doesn't
So
matter. It doesn't have
that's
to include
where
torture.
that's promised to them. No, that's the
Are
torture.
you
It's not like
are you experiencing
it's not like
perfect right
there's
now?
that-
Are you in perfect unity with God at this moment?
No,
Are you being tortured?
in a way, yes. If I
No,
had
you're
to
not.
be here, okay, maybe we have different definitions of torture. Again, maybe your
You think
definition of
so?
hell.
We're
you
currently in hell.
That's
This is
crazy.
hell.
Carl.
So
This
I'm
is
in hell
not
right now.
heaven.
I'm dope. I'm loving it. Then I'll do this forever. Yeah, I'm cool with this.
So hell.
I mean, if this is
heaven
hell,
is perfectly with
fine.
heaven is perfectly with God. Hell is no God. Here there
Yeah.
is.
Mhm.
I'm not in perfect union with God, but I still have contact with Him. Therefore, it's not as bad. But no,
Well, I
I'm
don't
not
have
in
contact
perfect
with
union.
them. I'm loving it.
I beg to differ. I beg to differ.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
If
Not sponsored by
like
McDonald's.
honestly, if you could have said "Have It Your Way" by Burger King, but if this is great for, let's say for you, no, if this is correct, there is no God, this is perfect for you, then like this could be your version of hell, which you wouldn't hate. But
Yeah, that'd be
Loving it,
awesome.
somebody,
Like,
Yeah.
somebody,
like
longs
it's just
for
like why should we be worried about going to hell then? This is pretty great.
Yeah. I'm actually worried
You
now
shouldn't.
for the unbaptized babies hanging out in limbo. They should be here partying with us.
Yeah, you should not be worried about going to hell. You should be.
Oh, so then
Figuring
why do
out
people
what you
bother? Why
want
do people
from-
bother evangelizing?
Yeah, Jesus literally
Because
says
you
it's
should
better
be
to
figuring
like poke your eye out and cut your arm off than to get thrown into hell. I maybe he didn't know what it was like. It sounds pretty dope.
You should be figuring out whether you want to be with Jesus or not. Not.
But I don't want to
Whether
be
you
with
want
a
to go there or
person
not.
that threatens me with hell. I would
It's
I would
not
never
Unless they're
choose.
threatening me with a good
I'm not-
time, in which case maybe I do want to hang out with them.
Well, there
I'm not
is pegging
threatening
in
my
hell,
kid.
as far as we can tell.
There's also probably pegging in heaven.
Yeah.
I'm not
If it's supposed to
threatening
be
my
perfect.
kid. I'm not threatening my kid with a car coming down the street. I'm saying
You are
Come
if
with
you
me.
sent the car down there.
no. I mean, if it's just a byproduct of what happens, either
But
you
it's
would
not.
What do
We
you
already
mean
covered this.
byproduct? It's not a byproduct. He made the byproduct.
God made it. God designed hell. No, it's not.
You guys are saying like
God-
hell is somebody torturing you with a pitchfork or something like that.
I
Hell
didn't
is
say
just
pitchfork.
not being with God. Hell is just not being with God. There's no.
Okay, so then why should
nobody's
anybody be worried about
torturing
going
you
there?
except God.
But-
Why should
Because
anybody
you're
be
not
afraid of
being
hell?
with God.
Yeah, we
No,
can
you shouldn't
talk
be
about whether or
afraid
not.
of it. You should want heaven.
Buddy,
You shouldn't be afraid
we
of
could
hell.
talk about
Why is it called
whether
hellfire? Why is there fire involved?
Same reason why Smeagol becomes old and decrepit.
Why what?
Same reason why Smeagol becomes old and decrepit. It's just a byproduct of his choice.
So a byproduct. So hell is not. So hell is something to be afraid of because eventually you'll burn, and burning is scary.
I mean, it depends. I have no idea what's going to happen, but I do know it's not perfect. I know you're going to be longing for perfection, which you will never find away from God.
If it's just like this, I'm not going to be longing for anything. I'm chill.
I'm good.
And,
I got
and I think, honestly, I think that's the beauty of it, is everybody gets to make their choice. You can be with God or you don't.
And if it does end
It's
up,
going
if
to
it
be
does end up
this
being the
that.
case that eventually it starts hurting because of the fire or something, then I can just choose to leave, right?
It's not locked. We can just leave, right?
It's not you choosing to leave. It's you choosing to be with God. And yes, I believe if you're like,
Those are the same
oh
thing.
man, I made the wrong choice. No, those are not the same thing.
They're
If you're
literally
like,
the
oh, I
same
really
thing.
wanna-
if
Okay,
if Blitz
let's
and I
say,
die and we
you
end
know-
up in hell, which is basically this, and we're like, actually, we'd rather
Honestly,
be with
maybe
God.
this is hell.
Would God let us?
Maybe this conversation is hell.
I'm sorry it's going on for so long, but
No, it's all right. It's all
if I
right.
could give another example, and I don't know what time we got, but if I could give one more example,
Well,
that I think would.
I'd love to hear your example, but I want to finish a point that came up, and it's really important, right? Which is hell was never a consequence, like a thing that happened by accident. We already covered this, and you keep going back to it. God explicitly created hell, right? He says, then he will say to those on his left hand, you who are accursed, depart from me into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. This is a place that God designed Like it didn't exist before God made it, and then he decided who was going to go there. Did we lose Gohan?
Nope, says he's still here.
God took him. He's in paradise now.
Mm. Somebody in the comments says, "Can I blaspheme the Holy Spirit and still be with God?" Maybe not.
Well, I think Gohan's connection must have cut out.
Must
Huh.
have, yeah. That
Well,
was. It went on for a while.
shame.
It says that he's back in the queue. But honestly, I think that's as good a place to stop as any, right?
Yeah, I think so. We got callers in the queue still, and we've got about an hour for conversations, maybe an hour and 15, and then we have to read our super chats, or we get to read our super chats. And friends, if you got questions for the good doctor while he's up here, send in some super chat questions. I promise you'll get thorough answers, which is why.
I'm sorry. Gohan's pronouns are she, her, so I shouldn't have made the assumption. That's my bad.
I'm used to looking at the screen, but Gohan's not on the screen right now.
Yeah. So we have, yeah, absolutely. Definitely send me questions, especially in super chats, because then I get some fraction of those, I think. Who knows how this works? But we do have a theist in the queue. You want to take him up?
Yeah, let's have it. Jace, come up.
Yeah,
I'll pull
sounds
up
good.
Jace. 33 from Wyoming says, I'm calling to talk about the Bible and Jesus. Jace, you're on to hang up with Justin and Dark Blitz. What do you want to talk about in relation to Jesus and the Bible?
Hey, Justin. Well, first, if you got like a notepad or just keep it in memory, after my first point, I want to talk about you. I think I heard you mention God prepared hell for the devil and his angels. So that's the second point. If you'd do me a favor and remember that. Sound good?
Sure.
Okay. And then firstly, I guess I'm practicing Christian. I believe every word in the Bible, whether I understand it or it seems to contradict. I just submit to God and just trust him in that. And I wasn't like that before. But the whole reason I'm calling is I'll gladly tell you. But the number one thing I just wanted to say is I have a personal relationship with Jesus, and he wanted me to tell you that he loves you.
Like you met the guy?
I have a personal relationship with Lord Marduk, and he want me to tell you that he's already flayed Jesus alive.
I have a personal relationship with Justin.
Right. Well, okay, Justin, do I understand right that you studied the whole Bible?
Yeah, I went to Bible college and then seminary, yeah.
Okay. You know, in the New Testament, Jesus says when he leaves, he'll send the Holy Spirit as a helper.
Yeah.
And
the Paraclete, yeah.
We believe, right? No, so I believe that I have the Holy Spirit within me, and my life is just amazing now compared to what it was. I was, I'm 33. I was depressed for 31 years. Nothing I did helped. And then I, you know how I guess statistically, like suicides seem to be contagious. Like if it happens in a place like a fire department, the best thing they can do is kind of get those like firefighters to mental health and counseling and whatnot. Because it statistically, it seems like suicides come in packs, you know. And I didn't believe in God. And for one, I kind of was kind of in your shoes because I had I would say the unfortunate upbringing of being around just Catholicism. And I don't believe Catholicism, I'm tripping over my tongue here. I don't consider it Christianity now. But it leads inevitably to atheism. And so I don't blame anyone that's been in Catholicism and just seen the weird superficialness.
How do you explain the Pope?
Of the doctrine. How do I explain the Pope?
Oh, he's not Catholic.
The Pope's
I'm not Catholic.
No, the caller's not Catholic.
No, I know. But if the claim is that... What I'm saying is the Pope is obviously Catholic.
Christian. Yeah,
No,
he's
no,
Catholic,
but your claim,
I
hold
don't
on, hold on.
consider
Your
him
claim is that
Christian.
Catholicism
It's
inevitably
not
leads to
Christianity.
atheism. You
Oh,
said that it
Yeah,
inevitably leads
because
to
it's
atheism.
devoid of a
So then how
personal
do
wait,
popes
relationship with
die
Jesus.
as popes?
is the Pope an atheist? I didn't know that.
No,
Atheist pope.
no, they're
Honestly, that would make
religious.
him cooler.
So, um, what we believe is like Jesus, he's Emmanuel, God with us, right? So he physically walked on the earth with the disciples, and then he ascended into heaven after he rose from the dead, and he sent the Holy Spirit, a helper, and the Holy
Sure.
Spirit indwells in believers. So my belief is I'm walking around as a temple of the Holy Spirit. He's in me.
Yeah,
I'm in
we
him.
we,
And
know what
that's
Christians
the belief.
believe. You
That's
don't
why
have to explain it.
okay. Okay, it sounded like you didn't get that part, but okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I went to seminary and never learned how to read the Bible. Yeah, we know about the Holy Spirit. Yeah.
I'm still stuck on this whole
Okay,
Catholicism
well,
leads to
you
atheism.
just
Like before the Reformation, was everybody an atheist? Like all the
Blitz is
people
stuck in the
Europe?
loop. You got to get him out, caller. Jace, this is your fault. You're on it.
Like how does Catholicism lead to
Okay, yeah,
atheism?
you guys are talking over me. Excuse me. I don't know if it's like the Zoom thing, but you gave the impression when I said that I have a personal relationship with God. Like I can understand this whole show is for debating with Christians, but that's generally what I believe, and that's generally how I encounter it's my life. And dude, I love Jesus. He loves you. He created you. Like
I'm sure.
You're the only you He's ever created. And
Jace,
He's been blowing my mind with the Bible.
Jace, buddy, we know
I'm
the
sure
gospel.
you've heard all that, right? Okay.
Nobody
Gotcha.
needs to hear that. What we would like to hear is why do you think anyone should believe in the Bible or Jesus? What would be a good reason to be in your shoes rather than our shoes?
Well, I have a personal relationship with the Creator. So I don't know. Imagine a Super Mario game, right? Super fun.
Does he answer your prayers?
Yes. Yeah, he doesn't give me what I want, but he always answers my prayers. It doesn't mean I always get what I want, but he answers my prayers.
Sure. And Jesus says that the Holy Spirit will give you utterance, and he also says that it will lead you in all truth. So I should be able, maybe, I should be able to ask you a question about the Bible, and God should give you the answer.
It's up to him. I could probably tell you things about the Bible that you've never heard.
I bet you can.
I'm sure it's some kind of. Let's hear it. What is it?
You have a Bible on you?
But actually, can we get wait? Can we get to the second point I wanted to talk about?
But we'll get there next. You have a Bible on you?
Yeah. Yep. I got a few, but we did agree that we would talk about hell and prepared for the devil and his angels when I first got on. Is that cool?
You want to talk about that? You can.
Well,
it just seems like you didn't talk about the first thing.
We're going to get there. We want to finish the first thing before we pivot to the second thing.
Well, no, okay, fair enough. What's up?
Okay. Turn your Bible to Matthew 27, verse 9.
Okay, let's see. 27. Verse 9.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Matthew 27, verse 9. Then was fulfilled what was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet, saying, and they took the 30 pieces of silver, the value of him who was pierced, whom they of the children of Israel, Christ.
Christ.
Is that what you wanted to read?
In the past tense? Well, you're almost done. There's one more part of the sentence.
Verse 10. You want 10? Okay.
Yeah, sorry. The sentence gets cut off by the comma at verse 10. Keep going to the end of verse 10.
Oh, okay. And gave them for the potter's field as the Lord directed me.
Fair enough. Okay. So my challenge for you is Jesus or whoever wrote this says that this is from Jeremiah and it was fulfilled in Judas, right? I would pay you good money if you can go to Jeremiah and find this prophecy.
All right. This is kind of my favorite subject with Jesus is silver. I believe that silver represents him, but find
Sure.
the prophecy of okay, so Matthew 27:10 prophecy in Jeremiah.
Yeah, so
27, 9, and 10.
Justin, this might be a while, so I think I'm gonna go like build a bridge.
It's gonna be a while. It's right next to the book of Hezekiah.
Oh, right now. Okay. You know what? I believe if it's in this, I can find it.
I believe you do.
I don't.
Do you
I don't
have
think I'll
cross
find
references
it
in your
right
Bible?
now. I can point to other things I found, but
Do you have cross
you mean the
references in your Bible?
prophecy is what you're asking.
Do you have cross references in your Bible?
I don't know.
Okay, so your cross reference would say something other than Jeremiah for verse 9. It's going to say Zechariah. That's a quote from Zechariah, not Jeremiah. In fact, it's a pretty accurate quote from the Greek Old Testament. The other part, verse 10, kind of almost came from Jeremiah, except that quote doesn't show up in Jeremiah either. But also, in neither book does anybody get betrayed for 30 pieces of silver. Nothing about this is a prophecy about Jesus from the Old Testament. The whole thing is just a giant flub, the entire thing.
Okay. Well, I am excited to do my homework on this. I want to look into that. It's a fascinating prospect that you've looked. I think vaguely, I thought that Joseph got sold by his brothers for 30 pieces of silver.
Well, is Joseph Jesus?
He's a foreshadowing of Christ. So I can show you in the Old Testament where every story. Can I explain?
No, foreshadowings aren't prophecies. In fact, I've got a list of foreshadowings in the Old Testament about me.
You're not willing for me to explain.
No, I already know your explanation. Right? You're saying, look, there are these stories in the Hebrew Bible, and it turns out like there's little tidbits in these stories that sound like our guy Jesus. Oh, congratulations! There's tidbits in those stories that sound like me too. That doesn't mean they're prophecies.
So then, what's the whole point of this channel if people can't call in and you can't hear their side? You're just so like, okay, I gotta humor me. Imagine
you can explain why you think
you
these are valuable. Like,
listen, sir,
if you want to explain typological phenomenon, you can give us an argument for why we should value typological phenomenon. You can do that. All I'm telling you is that these typological prophecies are nonsense. You have to, before you can give them to us, you need to give us a reason for us to think that they're valuable at all, because the Bible is full of prophecies. Typology ain't one of them.
Gotcha. So, let's say there's just a 50-50 chance that, in your eyes, that God's real or he's not. And
is that how it works?
Just pivot to Pascal's wager?
Is that how it works, by the way?
If
there's only two options, then it's 50-50.
So let's say either he's real or he's not, if there's just two options, and then you do show up on Judgment Day, like, what do you expect?
He did do Pascal's wager. What are you going to...
Well, you know what? There were two options and I chose the wrong one. Sorry, guy.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
What are you going to tell Allah? What are you going to tell Allah when you end up in Islamic hell?
I'm not going to end up there because the gospel.
And we're not going to end up in your hell either.
Set apart from there.
That God doesn't
religion
exist.
Outside of a personal relationship with Jesus is just another version of I'm a good person.
And that would be wrong. That tells me you've never studied any of the other religions. Atheism is not a religion. It has nothing to do with ancient Egypt. Here it comes. Want nonsense. An unconscious stream of nonsense preaching. Atheism has nothing to do with ancient Egypt. Atheists have existed since the beginning of time. Even the Bible says so. In Proverbs, it says a fool says that there's no God, which means obviously there were people who didn't believe in God when that proverb was written. And it has nothing to do with Egypt.
Have you heard of atheismo?
Oh, did he drop?
Oh, did he? Jace, can you? Uh, yeah, it says he's in the queue. Oh, yep, he's gone.
That's a shame. I was hoping he'd give me the prophecy. I had a hundy spot for him. Fuck, I was about to give it to him.
Justin over here just balling with his hundies.
Saying, I don't know. Well, I mean, we've got one more person in queue, Moss. I think we lost somebody during that call. So we've actually got time in the show. If more people want to call in, we do have time to take more callers. It's only 8:47 in the Eastern time zone. So we've got about basically 45 minutes to an hour to take calls. So now's a great time to call in. Obviously, we prioritize the theists, but if you're an atheist or an agnostic and we've got availability, we'll get you in as well. Like this one here. Moss is an atheist calling from New Jersey and wants to talk about humanity. So we'll get that figured out. And Moss, you're on the Hang Up with Justin and Blitz. What did you want to talk about on the humanity topic?
Hi, yeah. I love watching your show.
Thanks.
And I just wanted to say I saw the title. It was Nature Doesn't Need God, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would just, like to point out that, humanity, since since we've been, ever since we started getting a surplus of wealth, we started trying to describe the world like, that would benefit us. And I think that religion is one of those ways in which, or God is one of those ways in which humanity does do that. And therefore, then nature does need God in that aspect.
So are you saying that God is not real, but you should believe in God anyways because there's benefits? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I'm an atheist. I'm not saying that there's benefits to believing in God or anything. I'm just saying that and maybe I'm maybe I'm not.
Did you understand what he said? Because maybe I misunderstood.
Title.
Yeah, I think you're just saying that like we created God concepts because it was beneficial. You're not really ascribing any normative stuff. You're just saying that that's what we did. And like, okay, that's true.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying that is natural. That is a natural phenomenon that happened with
well, it depends on how you define natural. Like it's a thing that humans do. But humans also build skyscrapers. I don't know if building skyscrapers is natural.
I would argue that it is, but
okay, well then
I guess that
I mean then everything's natural, which sure, I mean that's a fair point. But the title says nature doesn't need God. It's not natural human behaviors don't invoke God. It sounds like this is just like a misunderstanding. The title is merely along the lines that exactly. we don't need God to explain nature.
Yeah, it was a misunderstanding of the title then. I'm sorry. I
okay.
I read the title and I was like, I think we do, but I understand now. Sorry about that.
Well, sorry, Moss. Thanks for calling in. Well, we've got, I think it's one person in the screening room. We've got time for some more callers if people want to call in. We'd love to get some good science questions while Dr. Blitz is with us. I actually have a question. I just heard recently about Planck stars. My understanding is they're hypothetical, right?
Yep.
But how plausible are these? Because I feel like if they're highly plausible, it could explain a couple things.
So this is at the boundary where we just can't say we have no data that tells us anything.
Right.
I actually think that there are people who are trying to analyze like minute differences or minute parts of the signal generated by gravitational waves from black hole collisions that would hope to like probe whether or not Planck stars exist or not. But as far as I know, we have currently no data that supports it one way or the other.
Okay. Okay. That'd be really intriguing. I've been catching articles here and there lately that are talking about this phenomena of black hole bounce, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have we observed this? Is this something,
No.
or is this still something hypothetical?
It's just hypothetical. Theoretical,
Okay.
you could say.
Theoretical is a good one. Well, evolution is just a theory, Dr. Blitz. Didn't you know that?
I did. That's why it's all a hoax. It's all made up. It's all just
What you
it's all
need,
just sound waves that we generate with our meat flaps.
you needed that King James Bible in order to know that this big science has fooled you. That's
If
the problem.
only I had read the specific Bible instructed by a particular British king from 500-ish years ago, then maybe
Jesus.
I would have not gotten my PhD in
I think
in theoretical physics.
I do believe it was the preferred translation of Jesus, Paul, and his followers.
That
in
makes
fact.
sense. Yeah, well-known English speakers.
That's why the Jews missed the boat on the Jesus thing, is because they
didn't
switched
speak English.
early the KJV, and they didn't know that yet. So it's
I see. Okay, yeah, that checks out.
it's an unfortunate, historical translation problem, right?
Yeah.
It's what it is.
So are the
Never
Jews
like-
really going to hell if it was just a misunderstanding?
Well, that's the thing is like most Christians, like even if you read the Bible, it seems like the Jews aren't going to hell, but most Christians think they are for some reason. Like it's really weird. Like
It's all
God
that conniving that we do, all that finger steepling that we do.
Yeah, you have to crouch. Yeah.
Yay for Nazi propaganda.
Somebody, the amount of times I get called a Jew because I read the Hebrew Bible is pretty wild. And someone said I have a stereotypical Jew nose.
All
I'm
right,
like,
give me that
first of
side
all,
profile. Let's see it.
I mean, I don't, but I'm
Because
like,
I do. I definitely
like
do. Right? Like
yeah,
I
like,
do.
if you're gonna stereotype, at least get it right. Holy shit.
And like Ian gets it a lot because of the curly hair and the glasses, which is like, he looks like an accountant and everybody knows and we're good with money, but still.
Sure. It's wild. It is wild. So you did your PhD dissertation on is it correct to it's like the fourth dimension?
No, it was on five-dimensional conformal
Five
geometry.
dimensions. Okay.
And also some
okay.
other stuff. Also, there was other stuff in there, but like the kind of core example that we worked was in 5 dimensions.
So is it correct? Time is the fourth dimension, right?
In this case, there is no time. These are 5 spatial dimensions.
Oh, 5 spatial dimensions. I didn't know about that. That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Do you have to have a PhD to understand 5 spatial dimensions, or can like someone like me wrap my head around it?
I mean, like, look, it's just like it's just one of those things. Like, this is not stuff that physically exists, but it's like mathematically interesting. Well, I mean, maybe it does. We don't know, but it's like definitely mathematically interesting, and it has some interesting consequences for things that we talk about in string theory a lot.
Okay.
Now, there's also broader consequences as well, but the original motivation was kind of stringy, if you will. And so, it turns out most PhDs are very technical. Like that's just the reality of the ball game. And so explaining them to somebody like, okay, I should back up. There are a lot of PhDs that are like observational or like computational astrophysics. And these can be, I don't want to say they're easy to explain, but they're at least easy to get an idea as to what they did. Like, oh, we discovered a planet around some distant star and we characterized what its atmosphere is made out of. Like that's a thing that like could be a PhD thesis. It'd be a remarkable PhD thesis, by the way, but that could be like a PhD thesis. The kind of stuff that I did was tricky. It's tricky to explain because it's a lot more abstract.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense.
Not to say that's harder, or like, I'm smarter because I do the abstract stuff. It's just different. And it requires it's more special, not more specialized, it's less accessible to lay people.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. For very understandable reasons. But nevertheless, we got two more callers in the queue
Both of whom
just
are
recently.
theists. What are the odds?
That's right. Exactly. The first one is talk about the utility of religion, and the second is the creator in the earth. I think Dylan might be the more interesting call to take first.
I think so too.
It says, my creator. I don't think we have a religion, so we're just starting with some kind of a god. So welcome to the Hang Up, Dylan. You're on with Justin and Dr. Blitz. Can you tell us maybe what you mean by your god before we get into the argument? Do you have a specific one?
How's it going? Of course. I don't have a religion either. Like I do not have a religion, and I do not support religion.
Okay.
So
do you believe
what's
in any
your
god?
creator?
My creator. My creator.
Yeah, what is it?
That have an identity, a name?
What is it?
Yeah, he's in the earth. He's in the earth too.
What? Okay, you keep saying where he is. What is he?
My creator?
Yeah.
I have to confess that he made the devil too.
It's Doug.
He also
It's Doug, obviously.
You keep Why aren't you answering my question?
Yeah.
That would be like you asking me, "Hey, what's your cousin's name?" "Oh, he lives in Ohio." Like I don't fucking care where he lives. I want to know what
Ohio's
he
the
is.
heart of it all.
Like, what is your
he made
creator?
the
Is
devil.
it a god? Is it like is it a mole man?
A god.
Okay, what kind of god?
He's the son of the Christian God, Jesus.
Okay, so Jesus is in the earth.
Bro, you did all that just to say you're believing Jesus. Okay.
Yeah, I
What's that
believe in
abbreviation
Jesus,
where
my
it's
God.
I'm Christian but I don't want to admit it or whatever?
Yeah. Sadakmak.
Yeah, Sadakmak. There you go.
Yeah.
No, I believe in
Okay.
Christianity. I believe in Christianity.
Fair enough. So
I thought you
can
said
give
that you
us-
don't have a religion.
That's what David said.
Christianity is different because it's the one true religion.
So it's still a religion.
Still a religion, correct?
So do you have a religion?
I changed my mind. I do have a religion, Christianity.
Okay. I'm glad that we're in agreement here. Okay, now so your God lives in the earth. Jesus, you think Jesus is in the earth? Is in like
My God,
the dirt?
yeah, my God is omnipresent.
Okay. So is he also not in the earth?
He's in
Is he
heaven,
somewhere else
but
too?
he's also omnipresent. He's in heaven,
Okay.
but also omnipresent.
Okay, so he's in the earth and he's also like in the air. Quick question.
More
Is
accurately,
he
he's
in Go ahead.
The prince of the power of the air is the devil, and Jesus made the devil.
So he's not in the air. Okay. So he's not omnipresent?
What? No, you twisted my words there. I said that the prince of the power of the air is the devil, but Jesus made the devil.
I'm just asking, is God in the air?
I already explained to you that
It's a yes
the
or no
devil
question.
is there.
Yes or no?
The king,
You keep
the
telling me about the devil.
king
I
of
just want to know if God is in the air.
Do I feel God in air? Is that what you're asking? Do I feel God in
No,
air?
is God okay, you said God is omnipresent. That means God is everywhere. The air is a place that you can be. So if God is omnipresent, it follows that God is in the air.
Are you okay,
He's
Dylan?
inside you.
Are you?
Dylan,
is
is God in your
concussed?
butthole?
I'm not going to entertain that idea.
He's everywhere.
Yeah, he's inside you. He's inside.
In particular, he's inside
How
your
deep?
anus. I guess rectum is probably the correct word, right? Because the anus is just the sphincter.
I find that to be doubtful since I didn't feel like the pleasure center got any stimulation.
What's interesting, Angel Gabriel did mention like Mary's like womb. So like there is a topic of discussion with that, like Mary's womb. Because Angel Gabriel said that like blessed is the fruit of the womb of Maria or Mary, because Jesus is the fruit of that womb.
So, Dylan, I don't think you're a real person. I think you're a troll.
No, I am not trolling. I
Is God
believe
stored
in
in the
Christianity.
balls?
Yeah, we'll do this, Dylan. I'm going to give you one opportunity to make an argument for your God, or I'm just going to move on. So the question is, your God is real, whatever you want to describe it as, because of what? Tell us why your God is real.
My creator.
Yeah, why?
He's in the earth.
Yeah, I'm asking you to prove it. Demonstrate that.
How do I prove that Jesus Christ was a real person? Is that what you're asking?
Nope. Prove that
No.
your God exists and is in the earth.
He's inside the earth.
How could you possibly demonstrate that?
By the devil. All the kings and the queens of the world worship.
How can you demonstrate that the devil exists?
Are we just doing word
How's that?
association?
Yes, this
How's the
is
devil not
word
real?
association games. Yeah, this is like finding the first letter on a license plate while you're driving and trying to match it to a word. This
Is that your
this is a
version of
game.
fun, Justin? Because if it is, like, that checks out.
My
The
version
devil
of
is a
fun is
real
making
person.
spreadsheets.
The devil is a real person. He's a real man.
Dylan, do you remember
Is
the
the
task
devil in the air?
that I gave you?
Remember what?
Well, we were both speaking, but I asked you, do you remember the task that I gave you? Because you're now no longer on task. We're trying to get you to
Of
render
course,
an argument for why your God is real. And your God is real because the devil is real, but you can't prove that the devil is real. So what's the next step?
I can prove the devil is real.
Do it.
My creator made the
It
devil.
could be some bullshit. Prove it.
My creator made the devil.
Prove it.
Didn't you identify that
He's never
that
gonna
there was
give
a
an
person
argument.
that no, my argument is that
Dylan, do you keep any dirt under your pillow for Jesus? Because Jesus is the dirt man.
no, I'm saying that Jesus
A little dirt under
is
the
not only
pillow
in
for
heaven
the
but in
dirt
earth too.
man. In case he
What I'm saying is that
comes
Jesus
to
is not only in
town.
heaven, like Jesus is he's in the earth too. But basically, what my argument is that like Jesus Christ existed, and that not only is he like a real man, but also the devil. And how do I prove this? By my creator. Like creation screams that there's a creator.
That's not proof.
What?
Creation doesn't scream. Creation is, for the most part, inanimate, except for biological life. So creation's not screaming.
Right.
The rocks aren't crying out, right? The question we have is if you have a demonstration, an argument, a piece of evidence that would warrant belief in this particular religion or deity, and it sounds like you don't. It sounds like you're just quoting platitudes from the Bible. If that's all you have, Dylan, we're 8 minutes in. I'm going to give you to the 10-minute mark to render a valid argument or even a valid piece of evidence, and then I'm moving on to Nick.
Or a coherent sentence would be good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not one cogent sentence yet.
My creator, how is he in the earth? My creator, how is he in the earth? My argument that he's in you, that he's in you, Justin too. My creator demonstrate that Christianity is real by faith. So my prayer to the
dropped. Done. We're not going to do that anymore. No way that guy wasn't a troll. Had to be a troll. We're not going to do that anymore. But
we took him too seriously.
You know, I want to give people the benefit of the doubt, because if I don't know them, they could just be struggling. Some people are on different levels.
If they're struggling, there's nothing. There's nowhere to go. You just got to have a little fun with it.
Yeah. Nevertheless, we didn't need to drag that one out. Let me grab Nick from the queue. Nick is a theist, and then I think we've got one more in the screening room. Nick's calling from North Carolina. Welcome on to the Hang Up, Nick. You're on with Justin and Dr. Blitz. How you doing?
How y'all doing this evening?
Doing all right.
Doing well.
Um,
Your call
I
screen
I
says that you
called.
think the utility of religion is leading you towards believing in a God. I think there's two
Yes.
things there. So you tell me which one you want to start with, right? The first thing is whether or not religion has utility. The second thing is whether or not that utility should make you lean towards theism. Which one do you want to touch first?
Mm. Uh, oof. I mean, it's. I was actually. I would say both. But
Okay.
You can't touch
yeah, that
both
religion
first.
has utility. Yeah, let's start with the basic, I guess. That religion has utility.
Okay.
Okay.
Is
I
does it
think. I
matter
mean, I
which
feel like
religion, or do you think? Sorry, there's a delay here, so we'll just have to be a little bit patient. So, do you have a specific religion in mind, or do you think all religions have utility?
All the religions that I know of do have utility. I could talk about Christianity specifically, since that's what I was raised in, but I think they all do have utility.
Do you think by utility we're talking about good utility or sometimes negative?
Yeah,
Because you can have negative
yeah,
utility if
both.
you're evil.
Both, but I would say that religion has an ultimately positive utility in the sense that it leaves room for flourishing.
I mean,
But
Like
it's almost
populations
everything does that.
can grow because
yeah, right.
I
So,
think.
so Nick, I'm actually curious. Like, okay, suppose that it's true that if you do your math right, and if you look through the entire arc of human history, and you calculate how much utility was generated by different worldviews, you find out that religious worldviews actually generated more utility than secular ones. Suppose that's true. Why would that make you think that theism is true?
That does not make me think theism is true, but that is one of, I think, the most major components that makes me uh like lean to theism. What really makes me think it's true is, well, or that it's partially true, because I do have caveats with that, but I think the God concept is real. I just think it's aliens more so. I don't think what we, especially with monotheistic religion, we're told that God is perfect, almighty, but loving. I think that's like people put extras on it, but I do think the core concept of there being some type of creative entity that interfered with evolution on the planet, I think that is, I believe that.
But does that have anything to do with the utility of believing that?
Are we talking about a religion
No,
based
that's
on
the truth of
aliens
it.
at this point?
I think so, yeah.
That's talking about the truth of it. The utility of it is a different conversation. I would
Look,
make the
so if you're
argument for the
leaning towards
utility that
theism is not
that it
compatible with
helps
the alien
families.
worldview, by the way.
Yeah, aliens aren't
What do you say?
gods. Aliens are
Well,
not
I mean,
gods.
yeah.
They're
However
not
you want.
compatible.
I don't feel ashamed about it. I feel like it's pretty possible, considering everything we observe about the universe comes from a small fraction of what is possible.
Right. But you're here to talk about theism, and aliens aren't gods, which means they're not related to theism.
Who said they're not gods?
God has a definition. Do you know what it is?
The monotheistic definition, especially with the Abrahamic faith, I know is one version of God, but that again, that's kind of
Well, but that's
separate
what
from my
theism
argument
is,
about
right?
the utility of religion.
Theism is about the monotheistic God.
Well, yes. Well, no. I mean, you can be pantheist. Like I that's what I've been
No, then
called.
you're
I was called a
pantheist, not
pantheist.
theist.
I thought that. Well, I don't know. I don't.
At least if you
I'm
live in
not.
the English-speaking world, theist means something very specific.
I thought panentheist, which is what, again, I've explained my beliefs to somebody that I trusted, and they told me that I was a panentheist, and I thought that
Right,
is
and
a
a
theist
panentheist is not
because
a
I do
kind of
believe in a
theist.
creative force being God. I believe that essentially that humans were designed, and possibly other forms of life as well.
By an alien or a god?
It depends on where you live, I guess. I mean, I would say alien for the modern for like how we understand science and how we understand space these days.
Do these aliens transcend the natural created world?
I thought it was interesting when I think that was Blitz was talking about like 5-dimensional objects and stuff.
Just need a yes. Just need a yes or no. Just a yes or no. Do you think that these aliens existed prior to the universe, or do they transcend the universe in any way?
I do not know. But I do leave the possibility open. Yes.
If they are a product of the universe rather than creators of the universe, then they would just be aliens, not gods. A god is typically, at least in modern English, somebody who was like responsible for creating something.
It has to be supernatural in some way.
Gods are creator gods.
It has to be supernatural.
I don't know about that.
Do you think aliens are supernatural?
Again, possibly. Like, I mean, I just say because there's certain things that I've read in the Bible and also the Bhagavad Gita that make me think that I'm not advocating for the Bhagavad Gita. It's a lot of fluff, but I'm just saying, I think that there's stories all around the globe of people talking about these experiences. I don't know. I also think that
so again, we're off the point. The point that we're trying to figure out here is if your God does, or your thing, whatever you believe in, if it's not supernatural, then it just means that it's not a God. So you got to figure out, is this thing supernatural, or the conversation kind of stalls out here?
I guess I see I'm getting confused with the because you kind of pigeonholing definition of God here. Like, I do not believe in God as a lot of people talk about it in the West or in America. That's where I live. Everybody talks about the Bible, and I don't. I think that that's only part of the truth.
Who do you think built the pyramids?
Oh no, you did.
You
got them started, Blitz.
Okay, just checking.
Were they given secret knowledge by the Anunnaki?
I think that, yeah, possibly. Yeah, but like, I don't exactly know. I know that there are some very weird, just jumps in knowledge, basically.
Can you give me an example?
Like when with Greece, basically, Greece itself kind of like came from, essentially, like, from what I understand, very nomadic tribes. They were not like super organized, and then suddenly they were like very, I don't know.
It wasn't
educated.
It wasn't sudden. That there were Macedonians, then Greeks.
Yeah.
Like, there were people living there. All of these modern cities in the Mediterranean, modern countries, started out as nomads, 10, 15, 20,000 years ago. So, but Greece didn't pop up out of nowhere.
I don't even think that's the only example, but I just, because like at a certain level, I understand that, I guess maybe the atheist perspective would be that these descriptions of gods are just stories, like metaphors and symbols of other things, which I can understand, like, the Grimm fairy tale type stuff. But also, why is it that every single culture has these kind of stories, and they're not, they're not all
what stories?
They're not all Grimm fairy tale. They're not all like, these neat little stories that you learn a lesson from. They're not all like that. A lot of them are
But
essentially they sound like
I don't
witness
think we
accounts.
know what you're talking about right now.
Well, in the case of Christianity, I know in the Old Testament there's a story about Ezekiel, like essentially there. I know you know about it, but it's essentially describing a UFO. Like, I think it was Ezekiel's wheel is what they called it. Like a
Yeah.
craft that maybe the angels. They said the angel.
Yeah, bro was like on shrooms.
It's a
I know Justin would
chariot that
probably
is
know
taking
better.
God's presence away from the temple. He's traveling east to where the Babylonians are, so he can be with the Israelites. That's the whole point of Ezekiel's vision.
But what about?
Remember,
No, I'm talking
later
about
in
the story.
Ezekiel, his presence leaves the temple.
I'm talking about the story where one of the prophets is in a pasture and there's an imprint in the grass, but he doesn't see anything, but angels come out of it. I don't know. I don't know if that's called Ezekiel's wheel, but
Angels come out of an
I
imprint
remember
in
the
the
story kind of in
grass.
my mind.
That's not
Yeah.
Ezekiel's wheel. I'll tell you that much.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely possible. The name.
You
I
mean
probably have
Jacob's
the name.
ladder?
I don't know. I don't think
Okay.
so.
Okay. I'm not sure, Nick, where to take this conversation because it sounds like
Honestly,
you don't
same.
really have a
I
firm
wanted to
belief
talk
in
about
God.
the utility of religion. I wanted to talk about the utility of it. Like, what do you say about the fact that maybe, because like, if I go anti-theist, if I say, look at all the negative things religion has done, and I go anti-theist, like, wouldn't I be robbing the world of a lot of the good things that religion brings?
Look, most social constructions in humanity, especially big institutional ones, they have benefits and they have benefits and they have detriments, right? Democracy, lots of benefits, also a lot of detriments. Now, you can be pro-democracy, you can be anti-democracy. That's a view that you can take, but it doesn't say anything about what you have to believe is true about the natural world. Like, just because you think that democracy is good doesn't mean that you have to believe that there's a god of democracy, right? It's just not. They're kind of unrelated ideas. You don't have to believe in. I mean, I'm sure the Athenians had a god of democracy. Um, I'm Googling now.
There probably was one.
I think Athena herself may
Although
have been.
Blitz convinced me that
Democratia,
there.
I
Oh,
guess. It was like the
Democlatia is
divine
wild.
personification of democracy. Also, Athena was pretty involved in that.
Well, I'm glad you guys took the call at least. I wanted to, because this is at the core of like my divide, and I think a lot of people's divide when it comes to religion, especially in the modern day. Not only do I have family that I have seen religion help, but
Okay, cool. Religion might be helpful for them. That doesn't mean that you have to lean towards theism.
yeah, but I see the utility of it in a sense of like propagation. Like, if I am going to have a family, I would want a set of guidelines, even if they're not all right. I can address them as they come up, in
You
the
can't make
lives.
your own list.
Like, I just, yeah. I mean, I can. I guess what I'm more so want to introduce just like this probably sounds a certain way, but I think the religion has utility because there are people who cannot understand abstract concepts. There are a lot of people who function in a
Religion
way
is the
like
opium of the
I've heard
masses. Yeah, I
people.
agree.
I've heard Christians, right? I've heard Christians say that, if I wasn't Christian, I would be in jail. I would be like crazy. I would kill somebody, like something like that. And for a long time, I did not.
That
Didn't
doesn't mean
like
that
that.
you
That
have to
creeped me
believe
out. Well,
theism is true.
even when I was Christian, it creeped me out to hear that. But what I have realized since then is that it is true for a lot of people, actually, that without religion, we would have chaos.
What?
So
Cool.
how do
Why
you
does that
grapple
mean
with
that
that?
theism is true?
Even knowing that there may be pieces of it, or not even maybe, there are in fact large chunks of it that are untrue. Even if I know that, And even if I know that there's kernels of truth in it as well, what?
Nick,
I
why?
guess there's a divide.
What does this have to do with whether or not the claim of theism is true?
I guess it's about the nuance of how I'm approaching the claim. I don't think it's an absolute truth, yay or nay. This book is right, this book is wrong. I don't see anything like that, really. Um, there are yeses and nos. Religions make many, several thousands of pages of worth of claims, and I can see the merit in the claims that have obvious utility. And I guess what tears me is like I also see that there. I don't believe it's divine necessarily. I don't believe that even if there were aliens that created or were involved in the creation of humanity, I don't think that gives them some kind of omniscient authority over me. But there are people who need
I don't care
to
about people.
feel
I care
like
about you
that's
and your
true.
beliefs.
And I have to live in the world with those people.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that you have to share their beliefs.
I have to live in the world with them too, which is why I do these shows, is because I want to share the world with people who don't believe nonsense.
That's real. It kind of feels like sometimes I would say I relate more with an atheist in a lot of ways because I acknowledge a lot of the same truths that you guys acknowledge. I just
Yeah.
I find myself it almost feels like sometimes I just want to give up just because of the utility. Like I want to say, okay, enough of it is true that I'll join your little club because
But
opportunities are being denied me. Like all kinds of things are happening that
that's Nick, I'm
I'm
sorry to
not
interrupt,
agreeing
but
with
that's
that.
lying to yourself, right? So if you're saying I'm going to follow a particular theism because I like the utility, you don't believe in this thing. You're just lying to yourself, and that's fine. You're welcome to do it, but if you think that, oh, maybe there's some true stuff here, so you follow it because of that, well, then you would actually be a believer. And believing in something is not the same as choosing something. Like you don't really get to choose what you believe. So it sounds to me like you already might have some remnants of belief, and you're wrestling with that.
Yeah, that's a
Okay.
good way to put it. I used to be a full devoted believer, and
Mm-hmm.
I've taken things away from it now,
Mm-hmm.
but I have left a lot of it behind. And
That's good.
there are people in my life that are calling me back to it, and it could potentially make it probably would make my life better. And I don't know how to keep my mouth shut. Like it's not going to work. I don't know.
I
Look,
mean, it could
look, I'm a
potentially make your
yapper
life
too.
worse too.
I'm a yapper too. I have a hard time keeping my thoughts to myself. Um, if that's you, then sorry, tough shit. You're not going to be able to survive in a theist community if they require that you're a theist too.
Right.
Like they're gonna like you're saying that basically I would not believe strongly enough, and it would come through.
Well, it sounds like you don't believe at all.
But because there's some things I do believe, but I think what I'm hearing you say is that there would be enough of a skeptical, there's enough skepticism in me to where it would ostracize me,
Well,
like
that's
regardless.
just what it sounds like you said. It said that you can't keep your you said that you can't keep your mouth shut,
That is,
which makes it sound like that you'd be
yes, yes.
voicing your skepticism too much, and that the people and if it's the case that this is a community that's bound together by religion, you might not be welcome in that club anymore.
But so another thing I should add is that one of the main people who is offering me things to become Christian again, he's my boss in a certain
Oh, that's a
capacity.
power
He's my
dynamic. You
boss,
should get out of there. You should get out of there ASAP. And I don't mean quit. What I mean is
and
just like distance yourself from him.
mm,
Because like that's really sus if somebody's like, I'll give you a raise if you join my religious club.
Well, we've had conversations, right? And he knows that my beliefs are fringe about that. Like, like I don't believe it the same way everybody else does. He knows that by now. But I think there's some kind of there's some kind of weird thing. I don't know. It's like he really want. It's not just him. There's other people too, but he's the main one that I think about, and that makes me sometimes think about.
Well,
going back to church.
think about this, Nick. We would definitely want to get to our next caller before I have to close out, but think about this. Okay. I think society overall does better when we believe things that are true, right? It has held back science. It's created violence. It's done all kinds of things because people thought that these gods existed and they needed them to do stuff, right? So while it may have utility, it's done horrible things. But when we did learn truth, right? When we learned how the human body worked, we could start repairing it, right? When we learned how the planet worked, we can start utilizing resources more efficiently so we don't destroy it, right? When we know true facts about the world around us, we can make better informed decisions and improve the life of humans. So I think the greatest utility is actually in knowing the truth. And the reason why, like, you might find people say that left religion and maybe they miss thinking about heaven, they miss thinking about seeing their loved ones, and it makes them sad. And the utility of religion could alleviate that. But the reality is, if you didn't grow up with that religion and then lose it later, this probably wouldn't be an issue. You would have wrestled with the existential questions at a much younger age. And by the time you get to your adult phase, it's not something that that you spend a whole lot of time on. I had to wrestle through that, in my younger 30s because I was religious, right? But it would have been way easier if I just grew up not believing in the nonsense and been done with it.
Yep, I never did. I never had to wrestle with anything. I was just like, yeah, it's all stories.
I guess I wrestled with those questions when I was really young. It's been a journey, man. Like I started reading the Bible when I was 13. I got sent to a school where I didn't have TV, anything like that. And I read a lot of the Bible there. And that's when I began to question. But I was still
Turns out
always
reading the
around
book makes you
people.
question the book.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there was a lot of things that I could understand at that time that didn't make sense. And I knew they didn't make sense. At least they didn't make sense back then, but I kind of, even those things. Anyway, I've come back
Nick,
and forth with it, I guess. But I'm sorry.
Nick, so
I don't know,
you're totally fine. There's a delay.
I'm not,
You're fine. Look, Nick, all I'm gonna say, and then we'll probably let you go, is it is true that you miss out on some social experiences when you leave religion. That's true. Going to church every Sunday is a social experience that you will not have. But you can often find ways to replace this. You can often find ways to gain social capital in other ways that are not that are either explicitly secular or just kind of a-religious, like they just don't involve religion at all. And you can fill those holes that you may have found lacking. Maybe your boss doesn't want to do something. Maybe your boss doesn't want to take you bowling. Well, you can go bowling with your other friends, right? So all I'm going to say is that don't be afraid of missing out on the things that you would lose if you didn't fall into religion when you can fill those holes in other ways. Mm-hmm. And there are often fun ways to fill holes in secular communities.
It's true. I thought that I would lose all my community when I left church. It turns out it wasn't that bad.
And Justin found out all about filling holes.
That's a truthy truth.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate everything.
All right, Nick, thanks for being here.
Y'all have a good evening, man. I appreciate that.
Take care.
Gave me
thanks for calling in.
A bit of an edge on that. At least I'll try to with him. I'll consider the distance thing. I'll see how I can figure it out.
There's nothing wrong with going to church with your friends and family if you love them, right? But all I'm saying is doing that doesn't need to lead to you actually believing the nonsense. Because it's you can support your family and still not believe this stuff.
Yep. That's what I do.
That's real.
Yeah. All right. Take care, Nick. Good to hear from you.
Thank you. You have a good one. Peace.
Cheers. When we got to Ancient Aliens, I was starting to wonder where this call would end up. I think we did better than what I expected. We
Me
do have
too.
another theist in line, though, Cody, right?
I actually think I know who Cody is.
Oh, okay.
But Cody's a good faith interlocutor. If this is the person I think it is, then Cody's chill.
Okay, so we'll bring up Cody. Cody is got science questions, so this would be for you, Dr. Blitz. From Tennessee. Once we get them loaded.
Hi guys.
What? Hey, Cody,
Hi,
you're
Cody.
on the Hang Up with Justin and Dr. Blitz.
Okay.
You got some science questions for Blitz, it sounds like. Yeah.
I think I confused your screener a bit.
Okay.
My whole thing is that they don't have to be mutually exclusive. So I guess the best place to start would be there are a certain set of individuals in both groups that have this shall not die high horse of like arrogance of not wanting to come any distance across the bridge to the other side. And I think that causes most of this, because I'll break it down with simple stuff. So just like the basics, like let there be light, the Big Bang. Then followed by behind that immediately, the only thing it says in the Bible specifically about God himself, other than later on called himself an alien. He called himself but it means he's from not here. Before that, you have I am the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. I am.
You're saying you believe that let there be light is a reference to the Big Bang.
I believe that there is a correlation. I think that
light wasn't the first thing
kernel of truth
that
is
existed.
a Venn diagram.
Right.
Light wasn't the first thing that existed,
that's the thing. Hold on. It would have been the super force, so says the current and dark energy and all that. I'm not going to go there. What I am going to go to is there's so let's say the little thought experiment. The universe goes on infinitely, and infinity in it by its very nature has to be imperfect, because it's going to have incorrections, because every time it does it, there's infinitely more chances there's something goes wrong. So
I have no idea what any of that was about, but go ahead.
Okay, well, a dimension that's infinite would ultimately collapse back in on itself, and where those 2 points meet would be where the highest and the lowest are, right? So it's this point.
What?
It's this place before the point.
What is happening?
It's like where everything and nothing meet. It's like, I don't know. What I'm trying to explain here is that God is existence itself, and everything that's in the Bible is meant to basically say that we're put here by him for a reason, and it comes down to like the clockwork universe. Even probability says that it's way more likely that it's created.
It sounds like you're a Christian then.
I'll let you guys talk. I am somebody who was thrown very young into hard Christianity, to the point where I would like sleepwalk and like write fucking Revelations fucking scripture on the walls. And in crayon. It's in like my home, like childhood home. It's like it freaks people out still. Well, I came out of that hard because of something happened with a pastor I was junioring under. Well, I went hard atheist after that. And I've come to a conclusion that a lot of things that we think we know as science, we know how, like, we know that it works and we know how to get it to work there. And some of the stuff we do know how, but like we don't know all the why. So where everything what my point is, I guess, is that the kernel of truth that religion originally was trying to seed out, that in all the little scriptures, like the tiny bits of truth there, that is the birthplace of where science came from. And I think science is just scientific people tend to be overly arrogant and knowing rather than just understanding what they think they know. So
Blitz is really arrogant. Like he doesn't know anything.
How laws become theory, how theory becomes freaking back to hypothesis. The more shit changes over time. That's one.
Yes, surely the method that changes and adapts to new data and new experimental results is the thing that's arrogant and not the thing that's set in stone in a book written 2,000 years ago that
No, they
is
both are, though,
unchanging.
because religions become dogmatic.
Religion
If
is
you can't recognize it, then you're
definitionally
part
dogmatic.
of it. That
right?
Yeah, no, but so is
I mean,
science now.
science,
It has
the
become
scientific
almost its own
process is,
religion.
in principle, the scientific process is, in principle, the only antidote to dogmatism.
Okay, that's true. But I think modern science is falling short of the spirit of science. I think that it's following so much in
How many scientists do you know, Cody?
power that we've. I'm one of my closest friends has a PhD in physics.
Okay. And is one of your closest friends, are they dogmatic in this way?
They were, and then we had this exact conversation over spent about 3 days, and he at the end we both agreed to disagree on certain things, but he ultimately approved. My ultimate point is right. It's that the arrogance of knowing, and then the thing that you know works repeatedly. That kind of the reliability there makes people think that because I know that that's how that is and that's all that ever will be. It gets this kind of sort of the best way I can explain it is the way current or like solid like state science for any field will be the predominant narrative, but then new evidence comes in that completely bunks it, and then the more and more piles up, but the already established scientific community doesn't want to look stupid over the last however many decades, so they fight to keep the new information away, and it's things like that have become dogmatic. So I guess my whole point here is
does that. Scientists fight to keep new information away. Have you seen the
but
church?
My thing is that that's the arrogance. That's the arrogance right there. That's in your voice. Can you not hear it? You not feel it.
It's not arrogance. What I am is shocked.
It's
because
incredulity, actually.
Yeah, incredulity, right? Because for the better part of the Christian history, they were actively destroying data, information, and science.
Yeah, 100%. Like the whole heliocentric model. Yeah. I know.
Just to be clear, this whole account that you're giving of like, oh, there's some paradigm, and then something new comes out that completely, completely overturns that paradigm, and then scientists resisted at first.
To say
the point is that the reason why scientists resisted at first, at least in principle, is because the reason there was some paradigm, the previous paradigm in the first place, is because that paradigm really well explained the data. It was really well supported. And so it takes a lot to overturn something that's that well supported. So of course there's going to be pushback.
Obviously.
But the point is that
the spirit of trying to find the truth.
On the scale of human lifetimes, science and scientists pivot. On the scale of human lifetimes, that means that individuals are changing their minds. That is the opposite of arrogance.
Okay, but here's the thing. Individuals. What I'm talking about here is the type of person who goes by what is the spirit of science is to be able to take new evidence in. It's the spirit of being able to get verifiable, repeated results, and be able to get everybody to be able to do the exact same thing, right? But it's all in the spirit of trying to figure out the truth around you. So that has been taken. So, for example, the truth I'll get a little political as far as I'll go. There's global warming as a whole thing. It is true, but it is actually a natural process that the Earth is going through right now after a freaking.
What's the evidence for that?
Warming. So essentially, it's all a process for the Earth itself to trap gases in the poles. It's the way that I think
is there any record of a rapid warming like this happening in the past that didn't involve a meteor strike?
11,600 to like 12,000, 13,000 years ago, yes. And it was around the same time as all the megafauna died off.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. That period actually was quite that period of warming, and I'm familiar with what you're talking about, the end of the glacial maximum.
I'm talking with the Younger Dryas.
No, I know. It's the end of the glacial. It's the end of the glacial maximum.
Yeah, you're right.
That took place over thousands of years. That did not take place over 50 years.
Right. Here's the thing, though.
This is a different process. It's a different thing that's happening.
But what happens when you ultimately melt off? Right. Here's the date. What does everybody want to say about the polar ice caps? They're at 30 years to 70% or whatever it is, and without having told you that they started at over 100% what they're supposed to be for this period. So when they melt, they decrease the salinity temperature of the ocean. It cuts off the North Atlantic current. The northern hemisphere freezes over. That's the truth about it. And our actual pollution, how much it affects it on 1 to 2 years on a scale of hundreds of thousands of years. So all of the the agenda type stuff that's around that is merely for gains, and they're using science dogmatically to the point where now it's like if you even argue against climate change, it's real. We can't do shit about it. It's my opinion there.
I mean, like by the way, I'm looking at a plot. I'm looking at a plot of the temperature over the last 20,000 years.
Is it from
there is
those ice cores?
nothing. Yeah.
Are you looking? No.
There is nothing that is even remotely close to the speed of the temperature increase that we've seen in the last 100 years.
Yes, there is. It's over. Okay, it's like 5 to 10 degrees over like a 10-year period. It's been like 1 to 2 and over like a 30.
Okay, give me the source.
Almost 3, like a 30 to 40-year period.
Give me the source.
You know what sources? This is from. Yeah. I'm not in front of a computer to give you the sources. I could. I would this be HTTPS semicolon freaking // like how would I do that right now?
I don't know. You would give me the name of the paper.
My sources are
the
Arctic freaking ice core samples taken when they tested the trapped ice, the trapped air in the ice, where they tested different levels and basically figured out that it, as is the current usage of what climate change is completely abhorrent to the actual numbers. So
okay, so
what they're trying to do now is kill off.
You can't give me a source
then? Kill millions. The source I just told you, the study, there was an ice core sample study.
Okay, so give me the source. What's the name of the study? What's the name of the authors? Give me something.
And this is stuff that I've read over the last at least 10 years.
Okay, so you can't give me anything.
I would have to get with you. I could give it to you post and after I find it and link it to you. See, that's the thing. I don't have a freaking cerebral implant. I could just send it to you. I'm on my phone in a place where I could talk to you. Like, how can you ask somebody for sources if it's not a prepared debate?
I mean, you brought it up. I assume that you had them.
I'm saying that this whole time I've had a spirit of it's been humorous to me and fun, whereas there's been a little bit of I would say backbiting in like I'm stabbing you personally. It's not you personally.
Is he cutting out for you, Justin?
Yeah,
because audio just got a lot worse.
Yeah, it's okay. Have a good night.
Okay.
I'm going to be the wackadoo. Okay. Also, I'm not sure what Cody you know, but that guy sounds cool.
It is a different Cody. Yep.
Oh, for sure.
I find it doubtful.
Just know the guys
thanks for calling in.
Just to say that it is, or that you know for sure that there is nothing. Like, the absence of proof is not proof, right? There's so many correlations that the arguments that atheists and theists use, that if they actually the atheists read the theist scripture and actually looked at it from a theist standpoint, would be like, oh, well, this is really saying what I'm trying to say. Like God, like a day for God.
I would disagree. I've read the scriptures very intently.
It lasts in infinity. One day could, a moment could last in infinity. A single second could go by.
That's a misreading of the Bible. You're misreading the New Testament. The New Testament says that a day is like 1,000 years to the Lord. It's referring to how time is different to God because he exists eternally.
Oh, well, or he's a higher dimensional being that doesn't experience time linearly with space, and he can just go through it at any point.
No, if he didn't experience time, he would have no causal power. He wouldn't actually be able to do anything. Unless you think time's emergent.
That's what I'm saying. Well, it's kind of like accidentally freaking setting up a bunch of rules and then all coming alive and you can't fucking do anything about it. That's kind of how I think God's happened it. I honestly think we're a fucking goddamn.
So God is an accident? God's an accident?
No, we're the accident.
So God made accidents and we're the accident?
Then people want to go to simulation theory after that, but that's just lazy because it literally just leaves the question.
No idea what he's talking about
at this point at all.
I don't think the guest has any idea where we're going either.
Okay.
I just think you're confused.
How do you feel about the overall, they're not mutually exclusive? Because I think there's some truth.
I don't think anyone knows what you're talking about at this point. I think there's some arrogance to you right now. That's why you're crashing out. It seems like you're the one crashing out, not us.
The level of science denial here is...
Yeah, you definitely were. You definitely did crash out.
at the same time as saying that science and
What
religion
define crash out?
are not mutually exclusive,
Excited
the
isn't.
level of science denial is hilarious combined with that statement.
It's not
Like,
science
clearly,
denial.
apparently it
What
is.
I'm trying to say is that, no, what I'm saying is that they were coming from a place of truth, that without religion having been born, the science, okay.
No, I mean,
like
the science denial was like the
itself,
climate
it was
change
born in
stuff.
church.
But you know what's extra funny? I have a hang up button.
Oh, look at that.
Isn't that great?
That's crazy. Who knew? Who knew? He wasn't crashing out though, Blitz. He was not, crashing out. He was
definitely
just
not doing science
yelling and
denial either.
shouting. Yeah. Oh well. Should we take our last caller, Joseph?
I suppose we can, as long as it's quick. I need to eat dinner.
It needs to be a question and not a preach session. But Joseph, welcome to the Hang Up with Justin and Dr. Blitz. Your tag says that you help explain tools, or you need help explaining tools. Can you fill us in?
Sure. Thanks for taking my call. I am a deconstructed Christian. Took like about 20 some years, and I often avoid like challenging people in their faith because I just find it's not very productive. And but just this morning, I had the opportunity to talk to a neighbor, and it went down that road, and she was open and intelligent enough to think about things. And I was trying to explain to her the tools we can use to determine truth. And I was, talking to her about logic and how science builds on logic, and how math is kind of a way of sort of a language for explaining all of that. And I wasn't doing a very good job of explaining it. And so I thought it would be interesting for you two to kind of take that on and, talk about how you would look at equipping a person of faith, someone who believes in things that are unfalsifiable, to begin to think correctly.
I think it's different for everybody, but one of the things I typically do is if they're basing their decisions on like faith, I would explain to them, like, if you think faith is valuable, what about the Muslims who have faith in Muhammad, the prophet? What about the Mormons who have faith in Joseph Smith, right? It seems that faith just can't be a vehicle of truth because all the religions have faith in something, and Christians think that they're the only right ones, right? So if that's the case, then faith seems like a useless thing. You got to try something else, right? Well, what's the next thing? Oh, well, we can observe, test, make predictions. Well, that starts sounding a lot like science, right?
Yeah, where I'm going specifically is trying, like, so many people just don't even have a foundational understanding of what is logic, what is science, what is math. Like, those are kind of hard things to describe to someone.
I don't think that you need to go into logic or math to do science.
Right.
Like realistically, like if you want to actually do science properly, sure. But if you just want to get someone to start thinking about the world in a rational way, you don't need to start talking about laws of logic and inference rules and, like quantitative data analysis. You don't need any of that. You just need to get somebody curious enough to think about ways that they can investigate the world without relying on faith. And that's really hard because most people are just fundamentally uncurious. I don't want to say that. That's not true. A lot of people who grew up indoctrinated in religious traditions often have like a defense mechanism against curiosity that was kind of instilled in them. And that's hard to beat around, hard to get around. But it's doable, right? I mean, look at Justin over here. He was practicing whatever, and then apparently now he's not.
Yeah, I was part of the great falling away.
When people are so conditioned, really indoctrinated to not trust science, even though they don't even know what science is, like, do you not find that giving them some, like, a basic understanding of logic, like, because if something is logically impossible, then science doesn't even matter.
I would start.
And this is going to sound really harsh. think of the most average intelligence person that you know. This is a George Carlin quote, by the way. Half of the people are dumber than that, right? Half of the people are stupider than the average person. And the reality is that high religiosity, this is a generalization, it's not true about everybody, but high religiosity does correlate inversely with intelligence. You will find that the lower somebody scores on various intelligence measures, the more religious they are to be. They're likely to be. And so like odds are, this is just like a, and obviously this is not true like about everybody. There's just a correlation there. Um, at least in Western societies. So don't make things more complicated than they have to be. One of the things that's often done in political circles when you're trying to convince somebody of a political worldview is don't try to bring like I'm a leftist, right? Not a maybe you'd call me a Marxist, whatever it is. Don't start bringing up seizing the means of production. Don't start bringing up the capital classes putting the boot on the working class. That's not what you do if you want to convince somebody on the right. What you do is you say, doesn't it kind of suck that like there's these people that could fix our problems like world hunger, but they just don't? Doesn't it suck that we pay insurance so much money and then they deny our claims anyway? You just have to give them something that they can latch onto that's easy to get. That doesn't require a whole bunch of theory. That doesn't require a whole bunch of, abstract reasoning to get like most people are dumb. That's okay. It's okay to be dumb, but most people are dumb. Just use really basic common sense things that can get somebody to start thinking like a scientist. They don't have to know that it's science. You can trick them into it. You can be like, oh, well, we saw this thing. What if we did it again and saw something different? What could we learn from that? Like, that's all you got to do. Sorry, that was a bit of a rant.
That's okay. Okay. Yeah, I was just curious what you guys might think about the topic. 'Cause like I said, I was struggling to give her satisfactory answers, like, and even explaining how they're all tools, but how we use them completely differently, but how they can build on each other. And because she was open to the idea that believing more things that are true is better than less, right?
Right.
And so I wanted to help her begin to think that way.
Sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I agree with Dr. Blitz. I think you want to start simple, and you can start if you want to touch logic. You can just start by giving like a couple logical questions they could wrap their mind around. Like, is it possible for God to exist and not exist at the same time? Obvious. They're like, oh, well, obviously not, right? Because like that's just impossible. Like, oh, yes, that's the first, one of the laws of logic. So is this, you can teach some of these concepts just through asking the right questions. I don't know if you have to dig into necessarily, hey, here's the 3 laws, here's how you apply them, so on and so forth. I like Blitz's approach. Just walk them through it, almost trick them into learning these concepts.
All right. Okay. Good deal.
Ask, is God strong enough that he could create a rock that he can't lift? It will bring up a good logical argument, then you can then teach them logic.
Well, that's one where apologetics have about 10 answers for that.
Yeah.
But because it's so popular. But yeah, I get you.
Mm. Well, anyways, Joseph, best of luck to you. Thanks for calling in, and appreciate the call.
Thanks, guys. Have a
good luck.
Mm-hmm. Cheers. All right, lines are closed for the night. We are going to read, I think, all super chats $5 and over, I think is what I was told. And we're using a new system tonight, so you have to be a little bit patient with us. I see a queue right now with 4 different super chats in it. I think the people on the back end of the stream are going to be loading super chats into that queue, as far as I recall. So we'll alternate reading them. I'll grab right from the top of the list, and hopefully we'll be able to display them on screen.
I think it goes in reverse order. I think the top one is the most recent.
Okay. Well, I just grabbed the one off the top. I did hit the send, and I don't see it sending. Give me 1 second to see. I could refresh my browser. Oh, there we go. We got it now. Hey, Gretchen, thanks for the $10 super chat, friend. Hope you're doing well. Question for both. Which one of your respective chat moderators would win the Hunger Games and why? You said any question. Love you both. Moi. Well, thanks, Scratch. I appreciate that. And if there's going to be a Hunger Games, I think you're going to be near the top for sure. Feisty. But if I was going to place a bet on anybody, I'm going to place my bet on Carnage.
For me, I am legally obligated to answer Lilith.
Fantastic. Good choice. Good choice. Our next super chat, hopefully, there we go, popping up from Astronova for $20. Thank you so much, Astronova. Oh, I think this is Dr. Blitz's read. I apologize.
I mean, you can read them, but I'll read it. From Astronova saying, I appreciate you both. Thank you. God, I can't read it, apparently. Thank you for all you do to help people break free from the cult. Look, I'm just here for the love of the game. I don't care about any of you guys. I just love the fight. No, I kid.
No, I really enjoy trying to help people get loose from these harmful religions. And Puriform, thank you for the $10 super chat, says, I saw this documentary once. Maybe you heard of it. Ancient Aliens. We are Jimmy Snow. Listen, Indeed. Ancient Aliens has been messing up Americans' minds for a while. It needs to stop.
Honestly, they need it. Like, it was probably... Okay. Look, I don't know how the First Amendment works, but it was illegal for that to be on the History Channel. This is not a history.
There should be laws against this. All right.
Next up, we have Joshua Everett. Trying to send this, making sure that it's going up. Sure, we don't know the why for everything, but for the ones that we do know, the answer has never been magic. That's a fair point.
Yeah.
The number of times magic has been the answer is 0. The number of times physical stuff has been the answer has been every time.
Right. Yeah, that certainly is the case. And we've got a $10 super chat from Simeon Urchin. Good to see you, friend. Says, guarantee Cody's PhD friend agreed to this weird, arrogant, dogmatic science talking point just to get him off his damn back. He said he pestered him for 3 days. I'd say anything to shut him up. I agree, actually. If Cody was pestering me for 3 days, I'd be like, brah, and I'd say some shit to end the conversation. That's probably what I'm thinking I would do.
Yeah, the patience is not so much. From Ashandarai with the $5 super chat. Haven't seen much of Dr. Blitz due to schedule conflict. You live up to your name, sir. Blitz through those bad talking points with no BS. Well, I appreciate that. That's very sweet, very kind, and very generous of you. It wasn't chosen. It's my actual name, so.
Yeah, it's a great one.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Next one also. Wait, hold on. Did it load?
I don't see another one.
From Simeon. No, sorry. It's listed here, but it's listed in the queue and out of the queue, so it's just in here twice. I apologize. I think we did get some super chats at some point that may not have.
Oh, we have some from over here, which I can send from the vertical. I want to say one from Thar Pinup with the $2. With the $2, which I guess we can read it because I clicked it and we only have a few. Yeah. That fair?
Yep.
Just says they're not mutually exclusive. What before the point? I don't know what that means.
Yeah, we don't have the what there is referring to, unfortunately. So I'm not really sure. But we do have a $5 super chat from Stomp. It says, Exodus 21:16 says, if you steal a man and be caught, you will be put down. How do you respond if a theist argues that this verse condemns slavery? Well, obviously couldn't, because God would be directly contradicting himself. The same book says you can sell your daughter as a slave. In fact, the same chapter says God literally commands you to keep slaves. In fact, both the women and the children that are born to a temporary slave. So it wouldn't make sense for God to say, hey, you can have all these slaves, but also don't have slaves. So this is specifically referring to kidnapping a free person and making them a slave. And that's not how everyone became slaves in the ancient world. It did happen sometimes, but the majority of them were slaves either by birth, by financial hardship, or by war. Or you were sold as a concubine.
By the way, there are ways that, like, there are crimes that it's illegal to procure a thing, but then it's legal to do the thing, right? Like, at least for a while in the States, it's now changed, but at least for a while in some states, it was illegal to grow a certain plant, but it wasn't illegal to smoke the plant, right?
Right.
And so you couldn't take that as as saying that the government is against that plant just because you can't grow it, because they're endorsing you smoking it, right? So you could say, oh, well, you can't capture any slaves, but if they're born if they're born to your people, then it's fine. Like it's just saying that you can't capture them. You can't capture new ones, maybe, even though what Justin said is correct about the whole free people.
Nevertheless, I think we have some super chats that didn't make it into our chat aggregation system. I can see them because I'm not on the channel. So let me grab some of these chats. So we've got one from Jeremy that says, y'all go and check out John Cohen as well. Agreed, John Cohen's great. It says, he's great. Happy to be here, though. First time chatting this show live. Hello, everyone. Well, Jeremy, thanks for being here and for being here live and for supporting the show. And also from C Design, good to see you, C Design, says altruism was modeled over 60 years ago with Hamilton's rule, and in game theory, C.S. Lewis popularized this common evolution incredulity about altruism. I find you never read C.S. Lewis because you're never a Christian, but I find C.S. Lewis's argument for moralism and altruism.
I read the Narnia books.
Much better. Don't read his apologetics. They're weak. They're really, really weak. But what are you going to do? We do have another super chat. I think it just came in from Skeptics and Scoundrels. Good to see you, friend. It says, regarding the Cody caller, here's $1 for each of my surviving brain cells. Great show tonight, guys. Yeah, that was rough.
Was it a great show? I feel like I've gotten dumber.
It was great for the audience, maybe. It might have punished you.
Yeah.
However. Hopefully you won't be so traumatized that you can't still get some sleep tonight.
No, I'm not sleeping. If I sleep, I will have nightmares.
Fair. I think there's also a super chat from Ontological Shock that got bypassed by the system. Revelation 21:4. God will wipe away all the tears from their eyes. There will be no more sorrow, nor crying, nor any more pain, etc. How exactly could Matt Dillahunty be tortured in heaven? Well, yeah, that's the case. Revelation 21 would say the opposite. If you're in heaven, there is no more pain. There's no more sorrow. It's not a place that you would not want to be in. It looks like there's a couple in the main queue that got missed. From Pure Performance, again, it says, Gohan, can we get a trans rights? I'm sorry, can we get a, and then quote, trans rights are humans' rights? We carry the line. Yes. For Gohan, you can get from us, trans rights are human rights. And if you disagree, Gohan, you can go stuff it.
Maybe don't use she, her pronouns then?
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
I don't know Gohan. I don't want to cast aspersions. Dustframe says, question for Blitz. That's a nice degree you've got. Where did you get it? And where did you get it? At the nerd store?
I did get it at the nerd store. Don't make fun of me because I go to the nerd store. By the way, the nerd store is, at least when I was in college, was called Pop Culture Paradise. And it's where I went to play Magic the Gathering. It was the nerd store.
Okay. That's fair. Zach Penetroff, good to see you, says the line should make a pilot for a new sitcom about the antics of an atheist pope holding out for Pope, or some title.
That'd be really good.
I would watch, for sure. And we also have a question for Blitz from HP Lovecat. Says, question for Blitz, if we could produce enough antimatter to recreate Little Boy of Hiroshima infamy, what would that kind of blast look like?
It would be almost entirely gamma rays.
Okay. Sure.
You'd probably get like an explosion, or like a shockwave in the normal sense that you would get from a bomb, because it would heat up the air extremely quickly in the surrounding area, and that would produce a shockwave. But it's hard to say how big the shockwave would be, because most of the gamma rays are just going to pass right through it.
I've got 3 more super chats that missed our system, and then 2 more that just came in. From Knights Who Say Knee, great to see you tonight, friends. Says, I remember feeling so old at my high school graduation. 5 priests congratulated me, and not one winked at me. Rock hard for Doug. That's what I'm talking about.
That's brutal.
And then Velena says, I got hatred from radical Christians. The question, humans did paintings and art from cabbage? Why no paintings, art of Jesus at his time period? Okay, so I agree. The fact that we have no archaeological data nor artistic data of Jesus from his time period, other than I think the Alexamenus drawing where there's like a donkey on a cross. If he was real, you would think there would be something, anything, but we just don't have it. And where is Waldo? Thank you for the super chat. Says top 3 channels I recommend: Nick Minuteman, World of Antiquity, and Stefan Milo. I don't know any of those channels, but I might have to check them out. Thanks for the recommendation. Okay, I'll check that one out for sure.
I don't know about the other ones, but.
And from Josh with an additional super chat says, decent show tonight. Thank you. Well, thank you, Josh. Thank you. I feel like that came in almost twice. Last one from Frey says, love you guys both. Next time y'all host the hang up, maybe use the hang up button more. True. We weren't true to the show because we only hung up on one caller though. Fair.
Yeah.
We got one at least. We got one. So
we got one.
I mean, it wasn't like we didn't have any, but friends, that's the end of the show for tonight. Thank you so much for sticking with us and liking and sharing and supporting the show. Make sure you go over to Dr. Blitz's channel, BlitzPhD, and give him a follow on all the socials, TikTok, YouTube, and make sure you're tuning in for the other shows. We got TACIS tomorrow night, and then we might have I think we have a Cus I Wanna also on Friday night. I don't think we have one for next Friday. And then obviously make sure you show up, show some support, support all the creators on the network, and we'll see you again next week. Actually, Matt will see you next week. I won't be here next week.